Oh, good. He was there a minute ago. Yeah.
It's like the mulligan. It's like jeans, business, party. It's great. It's great. It's beautiful.
It's like the opening scene of the show Sports Night, where guy's like literally wearing no pants. He's got boxer shorts on.
This jacket's a little bright. Sorry about that.
It's all right.
Don't look directly at it. This is not Haspel. This is something else.
No.
I'll be wearing Haspel on Furball on Saturday. Either the crushed red velvet
Oh, God.
or the LSU purple and gold seersucker.
Oh, the Joe Burrow?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of a weird event. It's
not the Heisman the night before the Heisman.
It's not black tie, but it's not semi. It's either black tie or semi-formal. I'll be quiet now. You and I are not going to agree on the parent thing.
You have no idea what my take on the parent thing is going to be.
Okay.
.606 at Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane, off and running. Brian here with you, Jake producing. We got a fun show for you today. Attorney Franz Borghardt is back in for Legally Served. He has returned from parts unknown. He has returned from wherever it is he went on walkabout. Is that still a term? I don't know. Conjuring up images of Crocodile Dundee. Franz Borghardt in at 6:25 for Legally Served. We've actually got a stack of topics we're going to talk about with Franz. One presents a number of issues when it comes to, are you pointing the finger in the right place versus are you doing the same thing over and over again versus and expecting a different result. The state legislature is looking at a new bill that would put the responsibility on parents of juveniles committing crime. We'll chat about that a little bit. Going to chat about a little bit about Dition Simpson looking for a change of venue, saying he can't get a fair trial in Baton Rouge. And the interlock devices might bring up a conflict of interest as well. I'm interested to have that conversation. Legally Served coming your way less than half an hour from right now. In our 7 o'clock hour, we have got the new head of new schools for Baton Rouge. Kenneth Campbell is going to join me at 7:15. Looking forward to this. Previously, Chris Myers was the head of new schools for Baton Rouge, and he would make himself readily available often to talk about what's going on in the charter school space in and around Baton Rouge. Very much looking forward to picking up the conversation with Ken because, well, the mission continues. Education in Baton Rouge continues to evolve, and we need to talk about it. So we'll have Ken on at 7:15. Congressman Garret Graves coming by at 7:35. D.C. Current with Congressman Garret Graves. Going to dive into a topic with that one in just a minute. In our 8 o'clock hour, Daniel Erspamer heads up the Pelican Institute. He'll be checking in on the legislature today. He will be checking in with us before he checks in on the legislature today. And we will round out the guest list with District Attorney Hillar Moore, closing things out at 8:35. So Congressman Graves hopping on board at 7:35 this morning. There's no way we're not talking about the flood map or the flood protection, the whole 2.0 map thing. There are so many unanswered questions as far as, well, what goes into the flood insurance program and what would the potential impacts of the new flood maps be? How much transparency is there? How much am I paying for that I have no idea what I'm paying for? And I live in an area where I'm not all that impacted. I mean, my rates are going up just like everybody else's, but not as much as they could be. Congressman Garret Graves sat down with the administrator of FEMA. It was either yesterday or the day before for a little Q&A. And we're going to dive inside that one all over the place. That plus top stories and trending, this day in history, the outside in, you name it, we got it coming your way throughout the morning this morning. Got to start off with a little heads up if you're over in the Sherwood Forest area. So I can't tell if the crime scene is still being worked or not. Old Hammond Highway, just east of Sherwood Forest Boulevard. If your commute takes you past there, you might be, you might see some an added police presence right there. BRPD investigating a deadly shooting from this morning. Officers responded around 5 a.m. to the 11,500 block of Old Hammond Highway for shots fired in the area. That is 11,500 is the apartment complex that's just east of Sherwood Forest Boulevard. It's an apartment complex that, well, there's been shots fired there before, to say the very least. But it might impact your commute in if there are blockages, if there's still a crime scene being worked. You might need to take a little extra precaution. More on that when we get to top stories and trending a little bit later on. Hopefully, more on that. Hopefully, we'll know more in an hour than we know right now. All right. We're going to be due up for a break here in just a minute. Before we hit that break, hey, did you see that the National Hurricane Center put out their final report on Ida yesterday? Yep. Tuesday, the National Hurricane Center issued their final report on Hurricane Ida. It was now officially a Category 4. Wind speeds of more than 150 miles per hour. Our news partners over at Louisiana Radio Network are going to have a lot more in the news at the bottom of the hour. But with the final stats in on Ida, it is no surprise. Looking back on the damage that happened, looking back on the power outages, looking back on some of the destruction, especially when it comes to wind damage, yesterday's report from the National Hurricane Center basically confirmed what we already knew. All right, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we got a lot of sports to cover. Two mainly. LSU baseball was back at it last night, taking on Grambling in the box. LSU's pro day for football is coming up today. We'll talk about both of those things in just a moment. Before we take that break, got to ask you if you got your lunch plans set yet. If not, you know where I'm sending you. Mooyah Burgers, Fries, and Shakes. You know where to find Mooyah. Siegen, just north of Industrialplex, or Bluebonnet at Highland Road. I tell you just about every day about my favorite burger over there is the Double Diablo. Oh, it's got this nice spicy kick to it. It's got pepper jack cheese, Cholula sauce, and jalapeno peppers. That's like the trifecta of spicy. But I pair it with sweet potato fries that you dip in honey. So the overall lunch is this spicy and sweet combination that just can't be beat. Now, that's my particular taste. You might like a classic double cheeseburger. You might like the barbecue bacon burger. Heck, you might want to skip the carbs and go with the iceberg lettuce. Go with the lettuce wrap. Absolutely. They can help. They can hook you up at Mooyah. Fresh ingredients, certified Angus beef, freshly baked potato buns, best service around, making for the overall best burger around. Bluebonnet at Highland Road, Siegen, just north of Industrialplex. Swing by for lunch today for Mooyah Burgers, Fries, and Shakes.
What was the third topic? Interlock, parents, and what was the third topic?
Dicey on Simpson.
You get the, can I read it?
Yes.
Please.
Yes.
Thank you. You didn't mention this one today.
I did.
No, you mentioned the first two. I mentioned the first one. You threw back the second one.
I didn't send you a link, but
No, I'm familiar with this one.
I would hope so.
Well, you know, if they don't if I don't represent them, there's like a universe. It's like a universe that's revolving.
Holy shit, I never sent you this text.
It's okay.
My bad, dude. Yeah, no. This, okay. Well.
Can we talk about Interlock first?
Yeah.
That's a big one for me.
You know what would be funny? Is if you were getting into the interlock business.
There's no law that prohibits me from doing it. That's a lot of money, though. That's
Is
a
it?
big business.
Is it? Bro, my bad. I could have sworn I said I wanted to talk about this.
That's good. We've talked about this general concept before.
We have. Is that a word? Maintenance? Getting your car routinely maintenanced? I mean, if that's the worst that Condon throws at you, you're doing all right.
Wade. Second-degree murder? Yep.
Yeah.
We can talk about that.
Okay.
It's your show.
So, did you have, were you just on vacation?
I drove to Sedona, Arizona.
Yeah. Did you have
drove-
business?
No. This was a vacation that had been planned. I was not supposed to go by myself, and you can read what you want to into that. And then circumstances changed to where I did go by myself, and it was great. I drove from Baton Rouge to Amarillo. I went hiking in Amarillo. It has the second largest canyon in the country, Palo Duro. I went hiking. I climbed. It was beautiful. Sunrise. Yeah, I would have the same kind of reluctance to believe me too. And then from there I went to Albuquerque. Spent a day in Albuquerque. Then I went to Santa Fe.
Did you go to Walter White's house?
No, but I felt like Walter Weiss when I sat in the cigar shop in Albuquerque. Went to Santa Fe for a day. Then I was in Sedona for about 4 days. It's a very, very beautiful part of the country. The weather was better than I deserved. So,
Dave Ramsey?
no. How'd my boy Richard do? Did he do it?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
We gotta get Richard into the rotation.
Do what?
We get Richard into the rotation.
Yep. .616 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Kind of a get-right game out at Alex Box Stadium last night. Wow. LSU baseball turned it on. So they welcomed Grambling in the box. And it was not close. 16-3 your final score. As the Tigers just really ramped things up. I'm trying to find out how many. 1, 2, 3, 4 home runs on the night. Let's see. Barry had 1, Travinsky had 2, and Dylan Cruz had 1 as well. When you're stacking up all the stats, there were also, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 doubles as well. The list of RBI just goes on and on and on. It was just an overall overwhelming performance by LSU's offense last night. Really distanced themselves from Grambling, and one of those games where you just get the bats right. You get the bats right, and you set yourself up for what's next. And what's next for LSU is hitting the road for Mississippi State. They will be at State Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Friday night, 7 p.m. on our sister station, Eagle 98.1. 2 p.m. Saturday, and 1 p.m. Sunday. All right. Pro Day is today out at LSU. And it's a bit of an unusual pro day because a lot has transpired over the last year with LSU football, and they're really not a lot of first-round names coming out there this year. I mean, this isn't like years past where you would have like Burrow and Chase, Justin Jefferson and the like. You don't have a lot of huge names garnering a whole lot of attention. There is one name, one big name. His name is kind of dropping on a lot of draft boards right now, but Derek Stingley Jr. will be out there. NFL analyst or draft analyst Mike Detillier talks a little bit about Stingley.
Derek Stingley is, going to be the guy everybody want to watch. I mean, because he didn't work out at the combine. He's had a 2-year situation at LSU where he's been affected by injuries. And so it's important for him to show he's healthy back from the Liz Frank injury.
Now, Stingley, Detillier is 100% right, needs to show out just a little bit because he is dropping on a number of draft boards right now. Not in any serious way. He's still top half of the draft, but before the injury was a projected top 5 pick. Now he's a little bit further down, and it depends on which board you're looking at. I mean, Stingley, we all know his performance on the field. He was unstoppable as a freshman, All-American and the like. Detillier says, talent is the question with Sting, and talent's not the question with Stingley. It's actually availability. Pro Day will go on today. Along with Stingley, there's a couple of other seniors to be looking out for. One of those is kicker Cade York, which is going to be another unique situation to see a kicker positioning himself for the draft. That doesn't happen every day. Here comes a Fox Business Report. When we come back, Legally Served with attorney Franz Borghardt's next. Trying to vamp while I find a damn NFL mock draft. Here we go. CBS's mock draft has Stingley going. That's beautiful. I mean, you kind of picked the wrong week to be out of town, by the way, because we talked about that last week.
When did that happen? When was the Oscars? When were the Oscars?
Sunday, previous Sunday. Not this past Sunday, the Sunday before.
So I was in transit when it happened. I had dinner with my brother in Shreveport, and I was driving to the other side of Dallas that evening. And I started getting news blips about it. And so when I landed in Decatur, Texas that evening, I'm like, wait a minute. What did I miss?
Yeah.
And at first, I didn't think it was real. At first, I didn't think it was a thing.
Richard and I talked about, like, does Chris Rock have to press charges in order for there to be some sort of punishment?
It's a good question.
I thought so.
Richard and I occasionally do a podcast together.
You need to do it more frequently.
You need to talk to my boy about that. He's the problem there. He's the problem.
I would go for more of them for sure. Yeah, Stingley's dropped on CBS's board. He's all the way down to 12th right now, going to Minnesota.
I mean, that's better than last thing I saw. I was going to go to the Jets.
Where are the Jets picking?
They were in the top 5, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, well, no. Okay, being picked 12th is not better than being picked 5th. Like, well, that's the nature of the draft. The worst team is going to pick first. You don't want to go late. Well, you don't want to go late in the. It's like saying I don't want to be the number 1 overall pick because I don't want to go to a crap team.
I mean, Eli Manning said that, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, does it really? How do you feel in your gut about the idea of a judge or a sheriff owning an interlock company where, like, people in their jurisdiction could have to go do that? It just doesn't feel right? I mean, it doesn't. Like, it's different if it's a judge in Lake Charles and they own a company.
So if it's mandated that they have to have the interlock, then
which is not the case entirely yet.
And I think that's why it's going to depend. If it's the judge's discretion to say, you get an interlock, and you get an interlock, and you get an interlock, and you all got to come see me. But if it's out of the judge's hands.
Well, remember, we had a judge here, who I'm not going to name, that was requiring people to do community service at a specific charity. Like, hey, I want you to go help this charity out. And he may or may not have had, like, an interest in that charity. Like, it wasn't like it wasn't like slavery or indentured servitude, but that raised eyebrows, right?
It raised my eyebrows when you said it wasn't like slavery. That escalated quickly.
Making someone do something of labor without compensation. And owning them. Yeah, that's. Taylor.
Yeah, Taylor does traffic.
I love Taylor's voice. I could fall in love with Taylor's voice. I'm not going to lie. I'm a little glad T-Ball got rained out yesterday. I'm not going to lie. I love going to T-ball games. I love watching my son play.
I love responding to emails of, well, we were scheduled to have this many games, and now it's down by 2. Are we going to make these games up?
Are we going to get a refund? Is it free? I don't know.
Yesterday we were supposed to take pictures.
Us
Pictures
too.
are being rescheduled for the second time. Now it's going to be April 13th. They're going to email my team today. We're
sorry.
adding a day onto the back of the schedule.
Thank you for serving. I appreciate you coaching and volunteering, not just this sport, but other kids' sports.
Basketball I enjoy.
I'm being charged with a crime that's legally served. Don't tell me what I know and don't know I know the law.
625, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Time for Legally Served. Time to welcome back attorney Franz Borghardt after his
Good morning.
after his journeys.
Spiritual quest.
Spiritual
Vision
quest.
quest.
Vision quest, yes.
Yeah, it was great. Arizona was beautiful.
So, Arizona by way of driving.
I drove.
You
Yes.
drove
It's
to Arizona.
It's approximately 22 hours from here to the Pen in Sedona, where I was at. It was not straight. I drove from here to Amarillo, did some hiking in Amarillo, Amarillo to Santa Fe to Albuquerque, did a day in each of those towns, and then I did a couple of days in Sedona. Sedona is beautiful, by the way.
Really?
Beautiful. Beautiful.
All good to know.
A lot of hiking, a lot of
never-
spirituality there.
Yeah. It's weird. I never really look west when it's time to travel.
Well, growing up, we did the Grand Canyon.
Okay.
And we drove. But we didn't really do Sedona. Sedona's a different experience than the Grand Canyon. In fact, you can do a day trip to the Grand Canyon from Sedona. But it is great to be back.
Yes.
Found what I went to the desert, played some Doors music, found what I was looking for. It was great. Now I'm back.
Good. Glad to have you back.
100%.
We got a stack of topics to talk about today.
Sure.
And by a stack, I mean 3.
Yeah.
I've got to start with one that could potentially cause problems or conflicts of interest.
Sure.
And that is around interlock devices.
Right.
And the possibility that law enforcement officials and or judges and or yourself,
Yeah.
anybody, getting into the interlock business while already working on the legal end of things. I feel like there's something. Yeah, give the backstory here. Give
So
the
the
setup.
legislature, the Mothers Against Drunk Driving, as well as the interlock lobby, are pushing hard to create some mandatory interlock laws for DWI first offenses.
Right. Interlock, by the way, the breathing into the thing.
Regardless of how I feel about that, let's put that to the side. If the law becomes mandatory, the issue is, and this is not new, right? We have a sheriff's officer or sheriff in the state of Louisiana that has an interest in interlock business. And the question becomes, are there ethical or legal conflicts or issues with someone in law enforcement or the criminal justice system, a judge, a sheriff? You mentioned a criminal defense attorney. Sure, even a criminal defense attorney owning one of these companies with individuals going through the system that are going to possibly be mandated, if the legislature makes this law, mandated to have these devices on DWI first. And the long and short of it is while it may not, quote unquote, be ethical, there's no law that prohibits it right now. There are some states like Georgia, where Georgia has taken a hard line of saying, no, if you're in the criminal justice system, you cannot have a ownership interest in this law mandated device. And lest we be deceived, there is incredible money behind backing
A 1,000%.
in these devices.
Okay, 1,000%. But so it feels on its surface like it's oogie. It feels on its surface like there would be some level of conflict of interest. But if the law is mandated, if it's mandated that you have an interlock device, what's the harm here? What would they be doing wrong?
The problem becomes is you're mandated to have a device, but you're not mandated to use that sheriff's device. You're not mandated to use the judge's device. You're mandated to use a device,
right?
A interlock.
No.
So where the law gets where the issue is one. Again, I'm not here to lobby against what I feel to be draconian DWI first interlock device laws.
Yeah, DWIs are not a problem here. No,
Well,
all good.
having an interlock device on the first offense, I think, is a bit much. And candidly, I'm making a prediction right now. There is a law in Louisiana called a Duncan misdemeanor law that normally misdemeanors are bench trials. They're judge trials. But if you stack the penalty on certain misdemeanors in such a way, you create a constitutional right to a jury trial. We call them Duncan misdemeanors in Louisiana. And there's only a handful of them, right? Stalking is a Duncan misdemeanor. You get a jury trial for stalking.
Wait, I got to ask for clarification. Is this DUNKING or is it DUNCAN? Is it named after somebody or
Duncan,
is it
like a party? Duncan, like DUNCAN. Not Dunkin'.
Okay.
Not Dunkin' Donuts.
Because like you're dunking on them, like slam dunk.
So the crux of this is this. If the penalties of a misdemeanor, like a DWI first, become so cumbersome that it reaches a certain constitutional threshold, DWI first, which is a judge trial right now, could become a jury trial.
Yeah.
And why? What penalties am I talking about? Interlock devices are incredibly expensive. There's an installation fee. There's a monthly service fee. There's all sorts of things. So there is big money behind this, and there's big ethical and legal considerations as well.
Okay, we're going to have to pause right there. We're going to check news, traffic, and weather. But when we come back, if it's required, it's required. If a judge gets to decide all of his penalties are going to be interlock devices, that's a whole other thing.
Well, sure.
Let's pick that up. Also, we got to talk a little bit about punishing parents for the acts of their children.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we'll dive in. Right now, though, let's get you to CBS News here on Talk 107.3 FM.
Byron writes, interlocks are inferior technology. Manages the vehicle, not the offender. Scram bracelets are far superior. I got to agree with you. But the law doesn't require a scram bracelet, Brian. It would require interlock devices. Galen, that is the issue I'm concerned about. I think it's a clear violation of ethics laws. I think the ethics code is pretty clear cut about ownership interests and conflicts of interest. These are public officers, so yeah, I think there's an ethics violation around the corner on that. And Daniel, I don't know if this question has been brought before the ethics board or not. Yeah, look. Interlock devices are not going to stop people from driving drunk. They may start you. They may stop you from driving the car that has the interlock device in it.
Right.
Driving drunk.
Right.
From igniting. Right. It's an ignition. Are we going to get ignition on the back end?
That's up to him. Yeah, I don't normally do this, but break him off a little something from that remix.
Yeah, Byron, Sheriff Weber does have power in the legislature. The interlock lobby is very, very well funded. They are in connection with MAD. It's great. If I were a lobbyist, I would want them as a client.
If the judge has the decision to say I can sentence you to having an interlock device, or I can sentence you to X, Y, and Z.
Well,
if the judge has the decision, that discretion to pick one or the other, I could see why it would be a conflict of interest for that judge to own the interlock device company. But if the judge is forced to say you have to have an interlock device.
Judge, I don't drive. I don't have a car. My car was totaled in the DWI.
Okay, but now you're talking about whether or not that interlock device should be forced.
Right.
It's not about who owns the interlock company.
While you were using the bathroom, Byron...
I went to get my water.
Okay, while you were getting hydrated, Byron brought up a good point. A scram bracelet would be a far better...
I don't know what that is.
Scram bracelet is a bracelet you wear on your ankle that provides GPS tracking as well as it detects whether or not you are imbibing alcohol.
Okay.
So, I talked about this parent prosecution issue as it relates to the Michigan case on court TV. I've talked about this. I'm excited. I like it.
Good.
You know,
That'll be a nice little
I'm
time.
on court TV.
I know. We'll dive in.
I'll get you in touch with my booking agent.
Please.
I got to figure out what I'm doing with the Go Rouge show this week.
If you'd like to record early.
I can't. I would like to record early. I'm on court TV right before.
Understood.
And then I literally leave to go pick up the boy, and then I bring the boy here. So I'll figure it out. I'll let you know.
Oh, good.
And I've got to go to Houma that morning.
Really?
Houma, Louisiana. I do cases all over the place, man. I don't just drive to Arizona, Brian Haldane.
Sedona, Arizona.
It's beautiful, man. There's spiritual,
Sedona
there's
sounds like-
spiritual vortexes there.
The name of the town sounds like a furniture line from Pottery Barn.
It sounds douchey.
It does.
Sedona sounds douchey. It's a wonderful, magical place. It's beautiful. You got to like, okay, so first of all, you got to like the Red Rock thing, right? It's a different kind of mountain. And the Red Rocks are not white rocks. I didn't say white rocks. Red Rocks, it's a different kind of geographical thing going on. Like if you're in Denver, you see the Rockies and it's snow-capped and all that. Now, Flagstaff, which is between, yes, the town is called Flagstaff, is right before Sedona. They had snow when I was driving through, like on the sides of the road. So you should take your family on a giant road trip this summer.
No.
No, you don't do that?
No. We're not gonna do a whole lot of vacationing this summer.
You got 3 kids, man. They're all doing sports and stuff.
And they're all doing camps this summer, so it's brutal. No, just kidding. It's
I'm thinking about getting a new garden, so I'm thinking about getting Fisher. I want to teach Fisher a life lesson and get him out there working the garden. And,
right back to indentured servitude.
well, it's not slavery. I don't own him. I'm just responsible for him, which leads us into the parenting conversation. Fisher, I think Fisher would learn so many valuable life lessons by helping me create a garden.
Yeah. Like little flowers or like actually grow stuff? Produce. You got to have you got to let the kids see the fruits of his labor.
It's a front yard garden, so I feel comfortable with like rosemary and a couple of herbs. I do not feel comfortable growing corn in my front yard. Does corn even grow here? Yes, it does. Sugarcane. I grew sugarcane.
You can grow sugar cane for sure.
Yeah, while you were getting water, a lot of people asked, okay, well, maybe it's not against the law, but maybe it's an ethics code violation. We have this thing called an ethics code where elected public officials, people that work for the state or the government have to abide by those rules. That's going to be the interesting question is, would you feel different if a judge had an ownership interest in a treatment facility and was making defendants go there for treatment? That would be an easy one, right? That would be easy. That's a clear-cut
If it were mandatory. That's the part that I'm having trouble with.
Discretionary, it bothers
if it's
you more.
discretionary,
Okay.
if it's the judge's decision to send you, and that's why we'll go with it. Oh, we continue with Legally Served. Attorney Franz Borghardt is in with me, and we got one that it's got a little nuance about it this morning. Is it an ethical question, a legal question, about whether or not judges and or law enforcement officials should be able to own the company that provides the interlock devices? Go ahead.
To be clear, there's no law that prohibits it now.
Right.
So it's not, again, to be clear to the listeners, to the viewers on YouTube, there's no law that says, hey, you're a sheriff in whatever parish, a hypothetical parish, you can't have an interest in there. Does it pass the scratch and sniff test? So now there's an ethics code that public officials and people that work for the public are required to follow. Now that may be an issue.
Okay, I don't know why it would be unethical to make money. That's my issue here.
But the ethics code that you're familiar with that governs legislators, it governs state employees, parish employees. This code has all sorts of rules in it that address you making money in ways that are quote unquote potentially unethical or conflicts of interest.
Okay, but is it it's a conflict of interest if the judge has the discretion to funnel people to be his customers. If the law is the law and the judge doesn't have that discretion or the sheriff doesn't have that discretion, then I don't understand why it's a problem for them to make money. Why is it unethical for them to have an interest in a company that's going to make money when they're not able to utilize their position to funnel people back towards it?
So as someone who practices law throughout the state of Louisiana.
And on court TV from time to time?
Well, I do legal commentary as a guest. What you're saying is absolutely spot on and accurate. But the reality, the practice is, especially in rural, smaller parishes, they are going to funnel these people into their programs.
How?
It's going to be a gentle nudge. It's going to be more than a gentle nudge. I'm telling you, this is what's going to happen.
Okay, and I'm asking you how.
It's kind of like the parishes where the DA's brother is a bondsman.
Okay.
And you go to that bondsman to bond out.
So if the judge can be okay, if there's any way, shape, or form that they're funneling them there, yes. If the judge or the sheriff or whomever is the only one that owns an interlock device outlet, then that is a completely different scenario.
Here's my question. Why does a judge or a sheriff, an elected official, have to have an ownership interest in a potentially state-mandated device where they are potentially making arrests? Would it motivate the sheriff's office to make more DWI arrests?
Okay, so that's another question altogether.
Would it motivate the judge to convict individuals knowing that those individuals are going to have to get the devices that he has an economic interest in? That's the issue.
Okay, so what you're saying is if things play out this way and they're allowed to own the interlock device, that the judge is just going to be slamming the guilty gavel all day long.
How do you separate the perception of impropriety, the appearance of impropriety from the reality, which is the same topic we're about to have with regard to a fair jury? Look, at the very least, you're constitutionally entitled to the appearance of a fair trial. You should be entitled to a fair trial.
You are entitled to a fair trial.
But at the very least, the perception should be clean. That's the issue I have.
I would think that there would be something trackable about this. If the sheriff owns the interlock device company and all of a sudden DUI checkpoints become like a weekly thing.
There's nothing in the law that says he can't do that.
I know.
There's nothing in the law that says, and it's like this. Is it going to stop DWIs? It's going to penalize people that have been convicted of DWIs, and in that respect, it could be a deterrent. I don't think it's going to modify behavior, though. I don't think it's going to modify behavior other than the behavior during that period of time. Okay.
Oh, but whoa! But then your issue is not with who owns the interlock device. Your issue was with the law that would force the interlock device.
I started with that.
But that's a complete no. But you said that was a completely different topic,
right? And I'm not trying to go there. Look. I wish I was a lobbyist representing the Interlocks and MAD. That's a great, profitable organization. Yeah, you do a little bit of good, but that is a money-making racket. I sent you some articles, didn't I not, about how much money is being generated by these devices. Yeah. And there's not a lot of different companies that are doing these devices.
But it makes you feel good, though.
It makes me
It makes you feel good like you've done something.
Okay.
I don't know that it's going to, I
don't know. We have stuff in the law, like a law that says parents should be responsible for their kids.
Oh, we're going to get to that. I'm saving that one on purpose.
I'm worried. I mean, I want to get to that one. That's the meat and potatoes one.
Well, we got to save that one for the back end to make sure we have enough time for it.
That's the money topic.
Yes, we've got a couple minutes before break. I just want to bring this one up because we've talked about this as a topic before. Dition Simpson's trial started this week. Jury selection began in Dition Simpson's trial. The alleged killer of LSU hoop star wants his trial moved. Do prospective jurors know too much? Just as kind of a tutorial, as a refresher, what goes into moving a trial?
So we've talked about this before. You're constitutionally and by state law entitled to a fair trial by a jury of your peers, where the jurors don't come in. When the jurors don't come in with what? So much knowledge of the case that you can't get a fair shake. And it doesn't matter how guilty you are. It's a fair shake, right? It's a arbiter of the facts in the law starting from a place of neutrality, right? And by neutrality, I mean not knowing anything about the case.
Yeah.
So to your question, when you have a case that is so high profile or so ingrained in the community that it is impossible to get a fair trial, then you would move the case to another parish or you would get jurors from another parish. Is this case so highly publicized that it is impossible for him to get a fair trial? I don't know.
We're a good 4 years removed from the thing.
I think you've
from the
got
incident that's actually happening.
I think you've got a. I mean, this is not akin to if there were criminal charges brought against the Alton Sterling law enforcement officers. That was a nationally covered story that was viable and live for several years. Even that is pretty far removed at this point.
Yeah.
This is extremely far removed. So what you have to have is a perfect storm. You have to have jurors that follow basketball. You have to have jurors that are, an LSU basketball fan who loved Sims is probably not going to make your jury anyway. Right? He or she is going to be biased. He or she is going to have been affected by the murder of Sims. So do they have enough? Well, the only way you know that sometimes is if you start talking to people about, hey, what do you know about this case?
Right.
What have you heard about this case?
Right.
Can you put those feelings and that knowledge to the side? So now the fact that a high-profile individual was murdered doesn't in and of itself give you the change of venue. It's how much information was given by law enforcement, how much information was circulated by the media. Was this case in the media already pre-trialed such that you can't put all that stuff to the side? Those are questions. I don't know the answer to that.
In this case in particular, because it involves someone who played basketball, this did not just make local media. This was on ESPN a good bit, or not ESPN.com a good bit. I don't know if it ever actually made SportsCenter. From the article from The Advocate, only about half of the initial batch of 14 prospective jurors questioned on the opening day of jury selection at Simpson's second-degree murder trial said they had previously heard about Sims's death, and none said they had already formed an opinion about Simpson's guilt or innocence based on what they had heard or read in the media.
Right.
Shouldn't that be enough to squash this?
If they are credible, if they are being credible, and there's another layer there because we see jurors not necessarily always being credible to get on juries now because some people, for whatever reason, want to be on juries. Like, not from a place of I want to serve.
Right.
From a place of this is a high-profile case.
I'm going to get him. It's...
Theoretically, yes, is the answer to your question. If they are credible, if they're saying, hey, I don't know anything about this case. If Brian Haldane was on trial for some heinous act, God forbid that happened. And I was representing Brian because I probably would be representing Brian.
Probably.
Yeah. I mean, or Sprinkle.
we got to take a break. We'll continue this discussion during the break on YouTube. When we come back, a new bill to put the responsibility on parents for juveniles committing crimes.
How much time do I have? Time to use the bathroom? How much time do I have?
4 minutes. So the article says after they were questioned for several hours by State District Judge Will Jordan, who's been on this show, Prosecutor Jermaine Guillory and Defense Attorney Margaret Lagatuda, 5 women, 2 men of those 14 potential jurors were tentatively chosen to sit on a 12-member panel that will ultimately decide Simpson's fate. A second batch of 14 prospective jurors were being questioned Monday evening. The jury selection process would continue on Tuesday. This, by the way, this article is from Monday evening. So, Lagatuda has argued previously that Simpson cannot get a fair trial before East Baton Rouge jurors because of extensive media coverage of the case. Jordan ruled last summer that the defensive change of venue motion was premature because prospective jurors had not yet been questioned. So now that they're in the process of questioning jurors, I'm sure you could find a dozen people that either have not heard of this case or have not formed a solid opinion on Dighton Simpson's guilt.
Mr. Glock writes, if one doesn't commit a crime, one doesn't have to worry about a fair trial. Well, that presupposes that everybody who's arrested is guilty of a crime and you don't have to worry about a fair trial. Bless his heart. I just used my one bless his heart for the day. I don't get another one.
You don't get another one?
I only get one bless your heart.
So if you interview 14 prospective jurors and you bat 500, and you
It's
bring
not baseball. It's not baseball. 500's great in baseball.
yeah. Well, sorry, what are we talking? Like, you have free throw percentage numbers here, not batting average?
So it's an individual. It's a it's a person by person issue. It's not. In this case, it's not. So
Hey,
we have to deep dive to get into this, but you have a veneer of 70 to 100 people. Of those people, you pull 14 people onto the panel, and you interview them theoretically while the other people are listening. Unless you have a smart attorney that says, "Well, this is high profile. We shouldn't talk about everything that you know in front of everybody."
right.
And then you would do individual.
Unless you're the attorney that wants to change a venue, in which case you do want to muddy those waters so that everybody can be like, "Oh yeah, I remember
Appearance
that."
of impropriety again.
Well,
This is a common
but
theme
you're
today.
creating that impropriety by the way you question and who you question in front of. But my point was about batting 500 is you only need to fill 12 spots. If you get 7 out of the first 14, you're well on your way to finding 5 more. If you get 7 out of the first 14, you bring in 14 more, the likelihood of you finding 5 isn't that difficult, is it?
I mean, theoretically.
Okay, I'd be done responding to that guy's comments.
I can't help it.
Well,
I can't help it. I can't resist.
I don't know why.
This is where I'm spiritual. I'm so
That's
spiritual. Right now.
not that's looking for the gutter.
There's crystal. There are people who do psychic readings in Sedona. There are crystals. It's beautiful.
Oh, I'm sure.
I didn't do all that. I did do some meditation.
Sedona. Where I've seen that as a name brand somewhere. I feel like it's like the towels at Target or something.
There is. It's a type of wine, maybe. Maybe there's a Sedona.
I think it's Sonoma.
There's a wine there too. Maybe it's a type of furniture, Sedona.
Yeah, it does. That's what I'm saying.
Wayfair.
It says Sedona sounds like it would be like the cheaper line at Pottery Barn.
Well, it's historically the town is about a little over 100.
A lot of wicker.
A little over 100 years old. They settled there initially because, like anything in Arizona, there was water. So,
well, that's a real tough nut to crack there. Hey, where do you want to settle? I don't know. Is there water?
well, it's so simple and binary that it just makes sense. All right, should parents? How much time we got left?
About 10 seconds before the bump comes back in.
Should parents be responsible in the criminal system for the actions of their children?
Yeah.
Like parents don't have enough going on.
That's kind of what makes them parents, though, right?
I don't know.
Juvenile crime is on the rise in Baton Rouge and throughout the state. We're seeing riots in juvenile detention centers, breakouts left and right. When you read the headlines, it's not unusual to see 16 and 17-year-olds committing homicide all over the place. Should parents be held accountable for these crimes? There's a new bill in front of the state legislature that would tackle exactly this. And it is now our next topic here on Legally Served.
Doesn't it make them
with
take
attorney Franz Borghardt, I'm Brian Haldane. Franz?
Doesn't it make them take classes or something? That's the laws.
In the bill, parents, along with their children, could have to attend classes that would help with good decision-making and even pay for the crimes their kids commit. The decision on how much they would have to pay would be up to a judge. So, okay.
The class part is a slap on the wrist. The restitution part is very interesting.
Yes, because if you can't make restitution, then what happens?
So the bottom line is this. You have to get past the first hurdle. Should a parent be responsible for the actions, the criminal, juvenile delinquent actions of their minor children?
Yes.
In all cases? Or is it special cases, some cases? Should there be indicators? If little James, Brian's son, little James, goes to school today and takes a pencil and stabs somebody, heaven forbid that happens, and there were no indications that James was going to stab somebody, civilly you may be on the hook, but should you be prosecuted for the actions of your child if there are no signs, no indications? Because at the end of the day, kids do stupid stuff. Juveniles do stupid stuff. They're not fully developed. Now, in Michigan, you have a case where there were signs, right? Kid goes to a school, juvenile goes to a school, shoots up the school, and there were signs, there were things in the tea leaves that said, hey, this kid is mentally unstable and he may hurt somebody. Well, that's a little different, right? So I think the problem with this legislation is if you want to hold parents responsible, that's up to the legislature. However, you may want to clarify what crimes, right? Theft at a convenience store. Really? I mean,
okay, but is there? By the way, what you're doing is saying that there's room for this bill so long as it's properly hashed out on the floor.
Well, that's the legislature's job.
No, I know. But
I got to deal with the stuff they do.
No, I know. But what you're saying is there's room for the idea, and it surprises me.
Oh, as a defense attorney, I love the idea
because you could pass the buck.
As I said on court TV, you want to prosecute my client, the juvenile. And then you're going to prosecute his parents and say they're responsible too. What do you think I'm going to do as a defense? You're absolutely right. My underdeveloped, not fully developed juvenile client is not responsible. His bad parents are.
Right.
And even as a parent saying that out loud with a kid that does questionable things sometimes, you better believe that's going to be the defense. Is if we're holding parents responsible, they should be held responsible. If a juvenile cannot contract until they're 18 years old,
is there room for shared responsibility?
Sure,
though?
Absolutely. That's going to be the counter argument.
Yeah.
They're not mutually exclusive. To what degree? And again, the legislation's not going to address this, right? It's going to be for the courts to shake this out, and that's the problem, right? I think you have to, if you're going to make this law, I think you need to make it for serious crimes and not for but
also repeated crimes.
Well, okay, that's fine too. If Timmy gets into a fight at the playground at school, and there were no indications, and he hit somebody.
Right.
Do you want to criminally
you don't.
prosecute?
You absolutely don't.
Right.
But that particular Timmy is not necessarily on a path to a life of crime. This is State Senator Jimmy Harris out of New Orleans who has proposed this bill. Harris hopes the bill would catch kids early on before they turn to a life of violent crimes.
So the easy example is Timmy gets a gun, and the gun was left on the kitchen counter by dad. And we've seen this crime before, right?
Dad should be held accountable for that.
But our current system, if Timmy were to shoot somebody, you have a negligent homicide crime. Dad could be prosecuted for negligent homicide, just like the Michigan parents. So we do have something that kind of contemplates that.
I'm sorry, give us like 90 seconds to recap the Michigan parents.
So Michigan parents, kid goes to school with a gun, shoots up the school. People die. Parents had indications of mental health defects. Parents had indications that he was having disturbing thoughts, ideas. I'm very generally overbroading this, and they did nothing. It would be akin to your son saying, "Hey, I'm going to go to school and hurt some people today,"
and then doing nothing and saying, "Oh yeah, well I packed you bologna."
yeah, peanut butter and jelly.
So. I think the bigger question here is we continue to do the same thing over and over again and expect a different result. This would at least change that game.
Okay. This smells like a piece of I'd be curious to see if this legislature actually has children, because this smells like something that is being drafted by someone who doesn't understand fully what it means to parent and all the trials and tribulations that come with that. I'm sorry. I'm just it's being a parent is not. You got 3 kids. I only got 1.
I have 3. Only one of them is really questionable, though. So
I love James.
I didn't say who.
I love James.
I didn't say which one.
So here's the question: we're in a outdoor hunting fishing state.
Yes.
So do we not want parents to give young people, their children, guns? Period. Or do we not want them to go hunting? Or do we want them to teach?
No. Don't walk it down. That's such a crud argument, dude. It is so different because we want them to understand responsibility. We want them to, and by the way, it's not the hunting and fishing crowd. This would happen a lot more in Folsom if that were the case.
What about the scenario where you've taught them responsibility and it just doesn't stick, and they do something that's criminal, and then now you're criminal? And by the way, to go full circle to what we've always talked about is I've always in this topic reminded you and the listeners, civil liability is a different issue.
Oh, yeah.
You are civilly liable
But
liable for the acts of your children.
This would change the criminal end of it.
Right.
And at a certain point, though,
the financial component's not really necessary because you can be civilly.
Yeah, no. That's to me that you and I are in agreement on that. But my questioning is, as a parent, You've taken on that responsibility. You've brought a life into the world. You have to have some level of accountability for what you've done. You created this monster.
Well, sometimes monsters are created, and sometimes monsters just kind of happen.
I mean,
you have good parents
yeah,
that do everything right, that have kids that have serious criminal issues. I've looked at those parents in their eyes.
Well, we got 30 seconds left, and we don't know that. But that's the crux of the whole thing: is how do you sift through to find out? Okay, Mom, Dad, you did all you could. These things just happen sometimes.
I look into the eyes of parents all the time, and their eyes say, "How did we get here? We raised him better," and they believe that.
Yeah,
and I believe them. It's an interesting idea. I think it's really devoted. This really should be devoted for the serious crimes.
Always appreciate you, brother. It is Franz Borghardt. We call it Legally Served. Here comes CBS News.
All right, guys.
Hey, before you get killed, the mics for a second. Oh, thank you. Well, see, that doesn't fall in line with the two previous posts. Maybe if you didn't bring bad kids in the world, this wouldn't be a problem. Ah! What does Troy have to say? Maybe Eddie Vedder should rewrite the lyrics to Jeremy and add a verse about what happens to Jeremy's parents after he created the pool of ruin. No. Juvenile charges as an adult. Do they get out at 21? I don't know. That's a different topic than what we were talking about. Daniel Erspamer will be here, and Kenneth Campbell should be in person. Oh, shit, I got a text. I'm just frustrated with seeing criminals cut deals while victims and their families are left to suffer. Ooh, oh, okay. So I see where you're going with that. You're looking at the criminal punting and pushing it back on the parents, which was Franz's angle from the start. Which was why I brought up shared responsibility. I'm sorry, what did you say, Jake? Okay, cool. Matherd's one-day sales coming up this week. Cannot wait to talk about that. The last time they had the one-day sale, I bought like 4 months worth of meat just to throw it in the freezer. And they don't release prices until very much later on. Brittany Purcell says, are those two young parents birthing kids and the grandparents raising parents and their children? That opens a Pandora's box, doesn't it? Bro, how did Ed Sheeran get... I don't know how he walked away with this. He was accused of copyright infringement, and they found in his favor. He's from New Schools for Baton Rouge. I don't know where he went to school. Oh, Papa Bears. Eden Point Apartments. .706 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP Hour 2 Mornings with Brian Haldane coming your way right now. Brian here with you, Jake producing. Well, thanks again to Attorney Franz Borghardt for stopping in for Legally Served. I know I tell you all to go check out the YouTube every day, and when it comes to segments like the one with Franz, it doesn't stop. Like the conversation during the breaks is every bit as informative and entertaining as the conversation during the segments. So check us out on YouTube. By the way, subscribe while you're there. Mornings with Brian Haldane on YouTube. Go check it out. After the show's live there every day. After it's over with, the full thing is posted up. If you want to go back in and dive into some of the things we covered during the break, it well worth your while. A great discussion within the chat on YouTube as well, which is an added little piece, is the fact that your comments are always welcome and discussed on YouTube. All right, coming up this hour, let's talk with the new head of the New Schools for Baton Rouge. Kenneth Campbell is going to join us in our next segment. Congressman Garret Graves is slated to join us at 7:35 for D.C. Current. And we've got a lot to talk about with him as well, particularly flood maps. He got caught up with FEMA. We'll get caught up with him. That's coming up at 7:35. Going to get you to top stories and trending in just a minute, but first, got to tell you about the folks over at the Baton Rouge Mattress Outlet. All month long, their truckload sale is going on, and when it's all said and done, it's a lot more than just one truckload. Mitch and his team over at the Baton Rouge Mattress Outlet are here to make sure you get a good night's sleep, and they do that by giving you the best deal possible on your mattress. 2 locations, 4065 Florida Boulevard in Mid-City. That's where I got mine. Or the corner of Jefferson and Hoosier 2. Baton Rouge Mattress Outlet all month long. Great deals on mattresses with the truckload sale. I'm trying to scroll through their Facebook to see if they have any prices in particular right now. I tell you that the 5th annual truckload sale, when they do the truckload sale, they're bottoming out prices. Just go by and just try out as many mattresses as you can. Lay down on them. Make sure it's the right level of comfort for you, the right level of resistance. I love cooling gel Actually, mine's a hybrid. I've got the Beauty Rest Black Label. But whether you like pillow top, whether you like a firm mattress, no matter how you break it down, Mitch and his team can help you out. And oh, by the way, if you mention my name, you will get free delivery and a free pillow at either location of the Baton Rouge Mattress Outlet. And the customer service is beyond compare. So swing on by. Get yourself a good night's sleep by getting yourself a good mattress at the Baton Rouge Mattress Outlet. Time for top stories and trending. Let's roll. Well, we talked about it. With juvenile crime on the rise in Baton Rouge and the age of criminals getting younger, there's no doubt in the mind of State Senator Jimmy Harris from New Orleans that there is a problem, quote, across the state of Louisiana as well as across the country. There's been an uptick, Harris said. Harris says he thinks the family needs to be more involved in the life of juveniles and is proposing a bill that aims to hold the parents of children who commit crimes more accountable. In the bill, along with their children, the parents could have to attend classes that would help good decision-making and even pay for the crimes their kids commit. The decision on how much they would have to pay would be up to a judge. This bill has already passed the Senate unanimously. It'll be voted on by the House. Power outage at Southern University yesterday. Something went awry during maintenance work on infrastructure at Southern Tuesday, forcing campus to close early for the day. An unplanned power outage occurred while crews were doing scheduled work, according to our news partners over at WBRZ. Earlier, they sent a message to students that due to scheduled maintenance, a power outage had occurred. Quote, normal operations were expected to resume today. A spokesperson with Southern told our news partners at WBRZ the power outage was unplanned but was tied to the scheduled work. They didn't elaborate beyond that. Police arrested a man accused of stealing catalytic converters on LSU's campus after he was identified thanks in part to a report filed when his getaway vehicle stalled in floodwater within hours of the thefts. According to LSU PD, 24-year-old Bryce Lott was seen with two others on surveillance cameras March 15th as they allegedly stole 3 catalytic converters in separate thefts across multiple apartment complexes. In each of the early morning crimes, the thieves were seen pulling up to the victims' vehicles in what appeared to be a silver Chevy Malibu. Police were able to identify a license plate in the security footage, link that back to Lott. Lott was captured in Orleans Parish on Monday, later booked into the EBR prison on 3 counts of felony theft. Authorities are working to determine what happened to a man whose body was found in the Glen Oaks area Monday morning. The discovery was made shortly before 11:30 a.m. on Glen Oaks Drive near North Foster. The body was found inside a vehicle, according to the Baton Rouge Police Department. Yesterday, the East Baton Rouge Parish Coroner's Office identified the man as 55-year-old Brian Smith. His cause of death is still pending further review. Officials with Baton Rouge Police Department are working a shooting this morning at 11528 Old Hammond Highway. That is Old Hammond, just east of Sherwood Forest. It's the Eden Point Apartments. Whoa. Eden Point Apartments is where they responded to shots around 5 a.m. Police are investigating a deadly shooting in that area. No more details are available yet, just that one person was confirmed dead. Those are a look at your top stories. Here's a look at what's trending this morning. Move over, McDonald's. Sonic is on the way. LSU revealed in a press release yesterday afternoon that it will be partnering with fast food chain Sonic to welcome the brand's first college campus location in late 2022. The restaurant will be replacing the McDonald's space on the first floor of LSU Student Union, will offer their traditional menu in a takeaway style. Quote, we're excited to be partnering with this popular brand in the LSU Student Union as we do prioritize the constant review of many offerings to ensure as much choice and variety as possible, said Margot Carroll, Assistant Vice President of the university's Auxiliary Services. Sonic coming to LSU. Those are your top stories in trending. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, let's talk charter schools a little bit. Let's get caught up with Kenneth Campbell from New Schools for Baton Rouge. Welcome. How are you? Doing all right. Oh, all good. It is. We are one and the same. So Doing all right. Was the front door open?
It was not.
Okay. Oh. So, oh, it's going well. Going well. How about you? By the way, we're on YouTube. We're always on YouTube. So yeah, no breaks ever. Unless I just like walk away to go grab some water or something. I'm trying to see if Laura gave me any talking points or not. This is primarily going to be introductory.
Yeah. Whatever you want to go.
Okay.
That's fine. We're, kind of, big things that we think are on the horizon are always good. We're in legislative session. There are a couple of charter school related things. Not a lot, but a couple of things that are going on.
Okay, so we'll do the introduction. We'll do moving in after Chris, and then let's get into legislative. And then what can we be on the lookout for, charter school wise? Okay. Yeah, that'll get it done. All right. 7:15 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Been looking forward to this next interview for a good bit. As it wasn't that long ago, Chris Myers moved on from New Schools for Baton Rouge over to the Baton Rouge Area Foundation, and filling his role at New Schools is Kenneth Campbell. Kenneth, welcome aboard. How are you?
Good to be here.
You go by Kenneth or Ken?
Either one. Whichever
Okay.
one works. Kenny, people who've known me forever call me Kenny, so you
Okay.
can pretty much tell.
Okay.
Kenny, or Kenneth, either one is fine.
All right. Well, we'll start with Kenneth, and we'll get a little less formal as we move along. So tell me all about yourself. How do you get to where you're at now?
Yeah, well, kind of circuitous route. I started, born and raised in Biloxi, Mississippi.
Okay.
I was an Army guy, like me and all of my friends coming out of Biloxi, and then fell into education in the early 90s and have done work in Washington, D.C., Boston, did work in the Middle East, in Qatar, a lot of work with charter schools then. And Paul Pastrick, when he was superintendent, got me back from Qatar after Hurricane Katrina to help, rebuild the New Orleans school system through charter schools. And so, working at the state was great. And then, since that time, I've done other work around education. I founded the Idea Public Schools here in Baton Rouge, and so we have 3 locations, and recently New Schools for Baton Rouge. And so really excited about this next new opportunity.
How do you like where New Schools is at right now? How do you like the charter school scene in Baton Rouge? Because the growth has been phenomenal, and like from an outsider's perspective, you're moving into a sweet role.
Yeah, well, it's dynamic, right?
Yeah.
I think, which is really cool. We have some of the most amazing and diverse set of operators that you could have imagined being here. I think the team at New Schools has done a really good job of that over the past 10 years. And we have a couple of new things on the horizon. We got Discovery Schools out of Kenner scheduled to come in next year. We got Great Heart scheduled to come in next year. So we're really trying to create, I just think, this great fabric of schools, give parents choices. We want every kid in excellent school, and that really is what our mission is all about.
Are you able to kind of give a report card on how New Schools is done from its inception until now?
Yeah,
Because
I would actually give the organization a solid, B plus.
Okay.
I think and again, I've been involved with New Schools on and off for most of that time, and I think we've brought in great schools. I think we've worked greatly with the community and made more inroads there than a lot of people would have suspected. I think we have right now a strong relationship with the school district that's going to allow us to move this whole city forward as far as education is concerned. And just, if you could go above an A on just, again, the diversity and the quality of our operators we've brought in, I think is great. And I think the place where, I wouldn't quite get to that next A point is we still have a lot of work to do on overall school quality. So
Okay.
we see our schools growing faster than traditional public schools. But at the end of the day, like, we want to get to excellence. We want to get to no kid in a DRF school, and we got work to do to be able to get there.
100%. And it's interesting to watch the evolution of it, evolution of charter schools in this area, because at first it was just an uphill fight.
It was.
Like, this is going to work. I promise it's going to work. And then if there's a minor setback, if there's one bad actor out there, it sets the whole
sets the whole
movement back.
Yeah.
But where you're at right now, from an outsider's perspective, where you're at right now is more about refining the role.
Yeah.
Working not in opposition with EBR schools,
That's right.
but in tandem with EBR
That's right.
schools, just so that everybody maximizes.
That's absolutely right.
And then from there, just capitalizing allowing students to capitalize on their future.
Absolutely, and I think this superintendent, from my interactions with him, is really eager for this partnership, right? And so I think there are some tough issues that they're going to have to deal with, and I think we could be helpful to that. I think we're all together in this challenge that we have right now around talent. I mean, kind of as you see on headlines all the time, people leaving the workforce. That same thing is happening with educators. So work that we do together around that, I think, is very important.
Yeah, the talent pool for teachers is, there's work being done at the legislature right now to bring people out of retirement.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
So it just, that's going to be a struggle, and it is in every field.
It is in every.
It shows up more.
It shows up more. And then I don't know if you noticed, but coming from I-10 to 110 for the first time, there's this billboard, like right there in the corner with an ad from Fort Worth schools advertising for teachers to come teach in Fort Worth.
No.
Yeah, I kid you.
See,
not.
I'm never on the interstate.
And so, it's really, amazing that, they're advertising, they're trying to get Louisiana teachers. Mississippi just had a $5,000 increase to starting teacher pay. And so bills like the one we have to, allow retirees to work more are really good. Looking forward to this pay raise, but pay is only a part of it. I think, we're going to have to, in some ways, rethink how we prepare teachers. We're going to have to rethink what it means to be a teacher and offer, some really talented people more flexibility to be able to, spend more time in the classroom.
So, and full disclosure, you're talking to a son of a teacher.
Yeah.
So, I get it on that end for sure. And it's always a weird spot because we should be paying our teachers more.
Yeah.
But if you're only in it for the pay, you're
right.
not going to get the desired results.
That's right.
I've always been baffled by the whole, our outcomes would be better if we paid more. So
Yeah.
you're telling me you're sandbagging?
Yeah.
Like, that argument never really made sense to me.
Yeah.
It's more than that, though. It's a calling.
It's more than that. Yeah, it is a calling. And I think pay is only a part of that. But the other part is, kind of what's the flexibility that we offer them. I mean, if we have somebody really, really brilliant who can teach geometry and that's kind of all they want to do, and they want to do it for a couple of courses a day.
Yeah.
Like, we need to find a way to allow that to happen. You know?
Absolutely.
And right now, we're still working on a very outdated mode, I think, or something that was designed for the 70s and 80s. And I think right now we're just in a different era. And I wish I was smart enough to figure this out on my own. But I think a lot of great minds around the table can say, how do we do a better job of bringing people to the classroom and understand that there were some who'll be motivated by doing it the very traditional way, and there's some going to be motivated by something that might be different and new. So we got work to do there.
Well, when it comes to doing work, a lot of that starts with the state legislature.
Yeah.
There's work being done at the legislature right now. What's got your interest on the legislative front?
So I tend to want to focus on those things that are either going to improve outcomes for kids or increase choice for parents. And so there are kind of three things that I'm looking at now. One is, there's a bill in the legislature around charters, and specifically around what we call corporate charters, which are charters that partner substantially with a large business entity. And so, we have Basis, for example, that's partnered with Women's Hospital.
Yeah.
Those sorts of schools allow 50% of the seats to be held for employees of the business, which is a great idea. However, like Women's, they have a lot of employees who might live in Ascension or who live in Livingston. And because it's a district-approved schools, those parents can't go to the school. And so what we want to be able to do is allow corporate charters to be approved by BESI, by the state board, allow them to go directly there. And then that allows employees, no matter where they live, an opportunity to go to that school that the employer has donated, land or a building to. And we think that's a great, way to go. So we want to try to be able to deal with that. So that's one big piece. The second piece is there's a functioning state law that requires schools to serve representative populations of kids. And so if the district has, 10, 15%, special needs kids.
Okay.
You want charters to do that. And so those sorts of things I think are great. The challenge is when you have a district like Baton Rouge where so many of our parents choose private schools, that then all you're doing is you're evaluating charter schools against other public schools, when in reality you have a much more diverse population of kids, and we think those measures should be based on populations of kids in the parish, not just in the school system.
That would certainly raise the standard. It would also raise the challenges, though, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Well, I think what it does is it really is tied to the at-risk percentage of students, right? And so that's really what the law is designed for charters to be able to serve.
Mm-hmm.
And you always want to know that they're serving a representative number of at-risk kids. And sometimes those numbers could be skewed if you only look at the population of kids who are in traditional district schools. So in Baton Rouge, when you have a large private school population, when you have a large population of students that are in state-approved charter schools, then you're not comparing apples to apples. And we think it's a fairer measure for charters to be held to a standard that's tied to the district or the parish overall, and not just the district schools.
You mentioned, and we're going to step away from the legislature for just a second, but you mentioned working with Dr. Narcisse a good bit. What's the interaction been like with Dr. Brumley?
That's been great. Always. I mean, I think Dr. Brumley, and I knew Dr. Brumley when he was in Jefferson Parish, and that's really been great. I mean, I think we have a state superintendent who cares deeply about kids, but also I think who has been at every level of kind of district, school principals, local superintendent. I think that brings a lot of experience to this, and I think also an ability to be able to work, across political lines, be able to work across, lines of difference depending on where you work or what you do. Unfortunately, things are so political now, and that always makes it hard. But I actually think he is doing a lot of great stuff, and I think his work in support of schools, in the department through pandemic, I think was really strong. So, when we had a lot of states across the country and school districts that were, shut down for long periods of time, I think, we found a great way to be able to balance the safety concerns with the need to get kids into classrooms. And so, their support around stuff like that has really been strong, and his leadership, I think, is what we need right now.
Back to the legislature. What else has your eye?
Well, there's a bill for education savings accounts, which is really good. I mean, they allow parents to take their state portion of funds and be able to use those for either private school tuition or to provide other types of services that their kids may need. And I love, I'm really excited about those that are kind of targeted in a way. So, for example, they say if you're a military family, right, you may have particular, needs and interests that the local district can't necessarily fulfill. If you're a student that's been bullied, if you're a student that is in a school that's chronically failing. So, I'm really excited about having some way to be able to get, more options available to families like those who need them.
The approach on this education savings, allowing the money to follow the student and not follow in anything else but the student, the way they're going about it, like it's almost like it's a pilot program. It feels like the right approach because if you're in favor, it feels like the right approach because once you have it out there for children of military and children who are being bullied, then the next question becomes, if this group, why not this group?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think, at the end of the day, I think we always want to be thoughtful about that.
Sure.
The one thing that I would want to avoid, and part of my concern about the universal piece is I feel like there are times when it's going to advantage people who are already advantaged, right? And so, for example, if you're a parent that's sending your kid to, one of the exclusive private schools now, you guys are making $250,000, $300,000 a year, but now we're going to take this state money and also let that follow your kid to stuff you're already doing. It gets a little antsy.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you.
I mean,
you're talking to, like, I got 3 kids in Catholic schools, so,
exactly.
I'm looking for mine.
Yeah, and if for working families, like, it is a huge deal, right? And so being able to do that is very important, and I think that's where the rubber meets the road and where we have to be thoughtful about, how we design these bills. I'm also, one thing I love, and when I used to lead an organization called the Black Alliance for Educational Options, and we were, just really out front on getting Louisiana's voucher bill passed, which we, strongly support, and we think is one of the best bills in the country. It has real money attached to it. It has accountability for results attached to it. Those things I think are important also, and hopefully with this ESA bill, we can get something that's also very thoughtfully crafted.
Only got a couple minutes left. Got about 2 minutes left.
Yeah.
What's going on at New Schools? What are y'all looking at for the near future?
Yeah, so one, like I said, we're going to continue this work of bringing in new schools. We feel like there's space for still a couple of really good operators out there. Partnering with organizations like the school district, but also with BRAC and others, because this talent challenge is not one that is, that any one particular entity could solve. I think we're going to have to get together and figure out how to solve that. We want to make it easier and more straightforward for parents to be able to choose a great option, whether it's a charter school or a traditional public school. And so, thinking about our enrollment system and how we might be able to do that with greater transparency and make that easier for parents. So those are some of the things that we're looking at doing. I mean, there's a lot of work yet to do. I tell people that we got to be in this for the long haul, but I'm very optimistic about where things stand today.
We are seeing I don't want to say a trend yet, but new options popping up that are a lot more specialized.
Yeah.
Should we be looking for more of that?
I think so. I think, again, when we realize that the diversity of need and interest that our kids bring to the schoolhouse every day, right, it's important that we be able to meet those. And I don't think any one school can do all things for all kids. And so it's important that we create options. And so we think about schools like Louisiana Key Academy and the great work that they've been doing. We think about the Emerge School, right, and the great work that they've been doing. And you kind of partner those with, schools that the district has, like Flame and performing arts. Like, we're really seeing that parents need more, want more. We have to be able to do that while also delivering a strong academic program.
We're straight up out of time. We got so much more to cover. I knew this was not going to be long enough. He is Kenneth Campbell, the new head of New Schools for Baton Rouge. Kenneth, I really appreciate the time this morning. Thanks for stopping by.
Thank you. Good
Absolutely. We got to check news. When we come back from news, let's talk flood maps. Let's talk FEMA. Let's talk with Congressman Garret Graves. What should we be on the lookout for when it comes to our flood protection and flood insurance? It's coming your way next on Talk 107.3. Black Alliance for Educational Options.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember. It's been a minute since I've talked with them.
Kevin
Lewis.
Kevin
Chavis and Eric Lewis. Eric Lewis is dynamite.
Yeah,
he is
was
pushing
our state director.
STEM up in Zachary
He really
like you
is.
wouldn't believe.
He really is.
But I used to talk with Kevin Chavis a lot.
Yeah.
He disappeared off the map.
Well, Kevin now is CEO of K-12, the online provider, right?
Okay.
So he's back in D.C. He's leading that work. And so that's good. Just great friend and partner. So
Eric ran for Metro Council.
he ran for Metro Council. Yeah.
Put up a good show.
Put up a good show.
I'm sure he was disappointed when he lost. He lost so good. Brandon, the guy he lost, was a good dude.
Yeah.
But like Eric's passion for STEM is infectious.
And let me tell you, that's what he should have been doing.
Oh God,
all along.
Oh
like that, like everything else. They're like, dude, this is it.
He had like a robotics thing going on. He brought some little props in.
Yeah.
It was so much fun.
Well, he was at Kenilworth, did a coding and
Yes.
STEM fair this weekend. This past weekend, Saturday, and I got to do awards, and Eric was there working with kids, and so it was good to see him again.
He's a good dude.
Yeah.
He's one of the people that when you look around the community, when you look around the city, and you're like, okay, that's a guy who's fighting and winning.
No doubt. Yep.
So.
Well, I appreciate you.
No, my
Thank
absolute
you so
pleasure.
much. Yeah, anytime.
We'll
I'm sure
try to make
some
this.
hot stuff happening at some point. I
I'm
can
sure.
absolutely guarantee you.
Hey, kill the mics for just a second. Okay. Okay. See, the thing is, and the mics are on, where New Schools for Baton Rouge is at right now, I will always love Chris Myers. He did such a phenomenal job, but there was never going to be a time where he was not going to be fighting previously battles of trying to convince people that charter schools were the way to go. You let Chris move on, you bring in Kenneth, and now charter schools are winning is the assumed base position. He never has to retreat. He can excel. He can move forward. Freaking phenomenal. Stupid. 738 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Thanks a million again to Kenny Campbell. Can I call him Kenny now? Are we friends now? Because I feel like that was phenomenal. From New Schools for Baton Rouge. Time for us to check in with Congressman Garret Graves. It is time for DC Current. Congressman, welcome aboard. How are you, sir?
Hey, I'm doing well. How about you?
Doing very well this morning. We have got so much ground to cover. I got to start with FEMA, though. I've got to start with FEMA and a lack of transparency and cutting checks that I don't know what they're for. You had posted a video up on your Facebook about with a conversation, a little back and forth that you had with FEMA's director, or administrator, I should say, Administrator Criswell. Let's dive in. What are we looking at, and where have we gotten?
Well, so far, I think that FEMA has continued to stick its head in the sand. Look, let's keep in mind, Brian, what's going on right now with these flood insurance rate surges that FEMA is pushing through. This was something that came up back during the Obama administration. They realized how bad of an idea it was. Trump administration realized how bad of an idea it was. And this FEMA administrator just come in with guns blazing and says we're doing it. Now, the irony is that as we're sitting there talking yesterday, she's going on and on about how with disaster aid, we need to start doing set-asides for disadvantaged and underserved communities because these people have been marginalized, and minority communities and all this, saying that folks have been marginalized. We need to set funds aside. Yet, in the same breath, comes in and talks about how, in the case of flood insurance rates, people have been subsidized or haven't been paying rates according to their risk, and they need to pay real rates because that's not fair. And I'm like, wait a minute, how can these two things be true? Bottom line is that this is going to result in people in South Louisiana, and not everybody, I don't want to be dramatic, but it's going to result in thousands of people across South Louisiana that simply aren't going to be able to live in their homes anymore. They're not going to be able to afford it. You can't come in and raise rates tenfold or more in some cases. It's simply unaffordable. It devalues homes, and it's going to end up putting people underwater financially, not just underwater from storms or hurricanes.
Yes, literally and figuratively when it's all said and done. So what's the outcome? Where did it end off, and where are we now?
Well, so what's going on? We have three different things going on. One is that we've been pushing amendments through the appropriations process, trying to stop this, to make them press the pause button and give us more time to work through it, to show them some of the rates. They keep telling us, oh, nobody's going to go from $560 a year to $7,000. Yet that's exactly what we're seeing in some cases. And so we've got that going on. Secondly, we have bipartisan legislation we've introduced with members of Congress from Texas, New Jersey, New York area. Congressman Troy Carter's on board, North Carolina. All sorts of folks from around the country are on this bipartisan bill that would require that they press pause. It requires more analysis of this, getting data out there in the public to where everybody can understand it, to where we can crunch numbers and stop this black box secret calculation thing that's going on right now. And so we've got that bill out there. And then the third thing is that we've got this negotiation that has been on and off for years now, trying to do a long-term reauthorization of the flood insurance program and 5-year reauthorization. And that one, the negotiations, like I said, have been on and off again, but we're down to probably about 3 or 4 outstanding issues. And so any one of those could help to solve this problem. But we've got to be given the opportunity to be heard and just to educate more people across the country on how drastic some of these rate changes could be.
Does the longevity of the flood insurance program affect our rates? Or, I mean, are we paying at a premium because of or are we paying higher rates because of how short-lived each deal is?
Well, so one of the reasons we're paying high rates is because they have developed a new risk assessment tool. So they look at things like the potential for us getting hit with a hurricane and the impact that would cause because our coast eroded, which I remind you isn't anybody in Louisiana's fault, to largely not their fault. It's primarily because of the federal government's actions. Number two, it's looking at the risk of the Mississippi River and things like that. Once again, that's water from Canada, Montana, New York, and other states. How do you charge Louisiana for those types of things? And lastly, keeping in mind that when we built our homes, we built them to the standards at the time. FEMA's moving the goal line and then trying to charge us for it. There's nothing fair about this. And so we're trying to help them to realize that this is just completely unjust. And that's, sort of what's going on right now in regard to our education efforts. But bottom line is that this thing is not ready for prime time. We realized it in our first conference call with them February of last year when we started trying to get information on this. They can't answer questions. They don't fully understand it. And even the First Street Foundation, kind of a think tank group, came and looked at it and said that Louisiana is being overcharged. Their analysis said Louisiana, in fact, the only state being overcharged according to their assessment.
Aside from the fact that there's too many think tanks that are named after their address, we have the folks from R Street on all the time.
Why do you say that, Government Street Foundation?
Exactly. So aside from that, I feel like we keep running back into an ongoing theme of your role is explaining things that don't translate on a nationwide level. What you just mentioned there, we're getting water from Canada. More than a third of the country drains into the Mississippi. Like, how hard is it to continue to teach this? And there's no other word for it. That becomes your role, is as an educator on a national level.
And that's what we've been doing. And I think that Administrator Criswell yesterday, she really tripped over herself. I think just really conflicted her own statements. And we're going to have to continue working with them on this. But look, bottom line, Brian, something you and I have been talking about for a while is that we're never going to solve the problem on how much we charge Canada for our increased flood risk. It's not going to happen, how much we charge New York. And so the solution is more investments in flood protection, which is why we're just continuing to build upon the $6 billion we've secured for flood protection improvements, for hurricane protection improvements, for restoring the coast in Louisiana over the last few years, just continuing to build on that, continuing to push the Corps of Engineers in the state to break through these crazy log jams they've got themselves in on the Comite project, to get this Five Bayous project in the Baton Rouge area off of center and get it moving, to build on the 350 miles of clearing and snagging we've been able to do in Livingston Parish through the ditches, canals, rivers, bayous, and channels. That's the solution here.
Got Congressman Garret Graves for a few more minutes, and I've got like 19 more topics to cover. Let's touch on the Strategic Petroleum Reserve as it's amazing. It's supposed to be there for absolute dire emergency times, like a time of war. As things escalate in Ukraine, we're tapping into the Strategic Petroleum Reserve here. And maybe I don't have a grasp of the overall the usage behind it, but it befuddles me that we're doing this now when we might need it like less than 6 months from now.
And not just that, but President Biden has announced 260 million barrels coming out of the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. We're approaching, I guess, 40% or so of the total reserves. What happens if something big happens around the globe? This really puts us in a precarious situation, number one. Number two, look, there are a lot of different ways to measure how much oil we were importing from Russia, but straight up crude oil was about 200,000 barrels a day. You heard President Biden say we're going to release 1 million barrels a day. Hang on, if we were importing 200,000 barrels a day, why are you talking about releasing 5 times that amount? Even if you add in other petroleum products, you still don't get anywhere near 1 million barrels a day. And so what this is once again, and he did this last year, it is using our Strategic Petroleum Reserve, our emergency oil reserves, to mitigate for bad policy. That's not what the reserves are designed for. Lastly, and most importantly, you cannot do these short-term strategies and say, okay, this is going to fix it. You've got to complement it with something to address your mid and long term, which means increasing energy production. This is the only president in modern history to not issue a single new energy lease, ever. I mean, just not a single one. He has blocked them, and I mean, it's just crazy what's going on right now, that they're out there talking about these crazy releases, these huge surges of our oil reserves being released, not having a longer or a midterm strategy that includes additional American energy production, and instead only empowers countries like Saudi Arabia, Iran, and Venezuela, and China, and just puts the United States once again in this situation where we are going to get leveraged by countries that we share no values, no morals with, no real military alliances with, and just effectively funding other countries to challenge us around the world and our interest around the world. It makes no sense. We should have learned from the dumb mistake that was made with Russia, and we've got to change the course.
I know it's an oversimplification, but it really feels like when you see a hurricane coming, you go shopping for all your hurricane supplies and you eat all your snacks before it's in the Gulf.
You nailed it.
That's how I know it's rudimentary, but that's kind of where my mind goes on it. Hey, before I get you out of here, I've got to ask, did my eyes deceive me, or did Congressman Carter best you in a crawfish peeling contest?
He did. He did.
What? Come on, Congressman.
I know. And so I got to tell you that we had a little 3 crawfish peeling contest, and I went into it a little casually. I was just like, I'm going to beat him. And then all of a sudden, I looked and I kind of stalled for a minute because I was like, I didn't think he was really peeling them, or not peeling, just eating them. And yeah, next thing I knew, I was behind and I lost. So I'm definitely gonna come back. But it was good little break from all the tension. I enjoy working with Troy, and I lost that one. Also, another story is that I saw you on Sunday, but when I went to go talk to you, you were gone.
Oh no! So I was wondering if you were there.
Yep, sure was.
All right.
Sure
well,
was.
I'm sorry I missed you. Yeah, we had to get out of there early to go to a track meet. So all good. All good. We'll catch you next time. He is Congressman Garret Graves. We always appreciate the time, sir.
Thanks, Brian. Take care.
All right, thanks. Bye. Here comes your money now on Talk 107.3. Congressman, you still there? No, he's gone. Damn it. Yeah, so Yeah, his mom and my mom were on a retreat together last week. Yeah, and my wife was teaming the retreat, so. I am way too emotionally invested in a missing dog in my neighborhood. Yeah, normally I don't care. But this bulldog is so ugly that it's cute. Is that not the ugly? That's the ugliest thing ever. No. Yeah, no, that dog is. Yeah. English bulldogs are my favorite. I had 2 growing up. So his name is Deuce. And he's missing. He's light brown and white. Got a dark green collar. Been missing since April 4th, so 2 days now. And it's like 4 blocks from my house. So I don't know. I don't know why this dog has me so emotionally invested.
Because it's Deuce the Bulldog.
No, not yet. 2 back-to-back conversations that were... I was going to go along with the congressman, but... Okay. Yeah. Let me knock out... I'm going to slam through the outside in because it's long. I don't want to run up against news, so if I have to push complete collision Emma Thurns back to next hour, I will. As of now, I am looking for my Mathern's talking points, which... Correct. So Adam Knapp was at the Rotary Club last Wednesday. And by the way, if you're watching us on YouTube, the commercial on air right now is for the Baton Rouge Area Chamber, and the what's the tagline is "Get it" or "Bring it, bring it." Anyway, I'm watching Adam Knapp last week. He's telling the Rotary Club, like all these business people, age ranges from 25 up to 90, right? A lot of retirees. Anyway, he says. We got a little saying around the office of the chamber. LFG.
Oh no. Oh no.
I'm like, there's a reason I absolutely adore Adam Knapp.
Was that like he fully meant that?
Oh no, he meant it.
Oh, sweet.
He meant it, which makes me respect it that much more.
Oh, I definitely respect it. If
oh my God, it was on purpose, and I'm like, I looked at the dude next to me. I'm like, did he just drop a LFG on the Rotary Club? It was fantastic.
The funniest is when people come up with I forget what it's called. Basically LFG, like when you take words and just take the first letter and make that like a little saying. The best is when people make it and don't know that one already exists, and the one that already exists is really bad.
Kind of like how WBRZ keeps trying to call the stretch of interstate on the other side of the bridge the Devil's Triangle.
Oh, my God.
It's impossible.
me a
I'm
reaction.
trying like hell not to make jokes about people dying on the interstate, but OMG, why don't you hit up the Urban Dictionary before going to print with that sort of thing?
I'm gonna tell you after this segment. I'll tell you about another one.
$7:55 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. A lot of comments rolling in on the YouTube chat. Galen says 100% right, Garrett. We should not use our strategic petroleum reserves to mask bad policy. Thanks again to Congressman Graves for hopping on board. It was a fantastic segment, a whole lot of discussion. Oh, by the way, I don't want to do inside baseball or like inside jokes or any kind of comments that leave the audience in the dark. Congressman Graves and I attend the same church. And he saw me in Mass last Sunday, and we had a jet immediately afterwards. So that's what that closing comment was about right there. It's a shame, too. Had a lot to chat about then. Had a lot to chat about just now. It'll be available on demand at talk1073.com after the show. Whew. CBS News is breathing down our necks. Not a whole lot of time. Let's dive into the outside in. We're going to start off in St. Tammany Parish. A man was arrested early Tuesday morning after he allegedly entered the wrong house and fell asleep following a car accident. St. Tammany police arrived at a Mandeville neighborhood after they received a call notifying them about an abandoned wrecked vehicle near the entrance of that subdivision. The vehicle was heavily damaged and unoccupied. Police located the driver, 44-year-old Stephen Carlin, after receiving a call from another resident of the neighborhood reporting an unknown man had entered her home through an unlocked door and was sleeping in one of her bedrooms. Carlin appeared to be heavily intoxicated when deputies woke him. He was arrested on charges of careless operation, failure to report a crash, and not making the bed when he got out of it. Over to Tangipahoa Parish. Nearly a week after a house fire in Amite, 2 elderly victims who were trapped in the home and rescued by firefighters have died in the hospital. According to the State Fire Marshal's office, an Amite home with 4 residents caught fire back on March 27th. 10-year-old boy, 59-year-old woman made it out of the home safely. They were waiting outside of the home when firefighters arrived. The pair told first responders 2 people in their 80s were trapped inside. Those 2 people have since passed. In Assumption Parish, Sheriff Leland Falcon reported the arrest of a 41-year-old Pankerville man on felony charges following a traffic stop south of Napoleonville back on April 2nd. Want to talk about why there's never such a thing as a routine traffic stop? Well, deputies said in a news release, Travis McNeil Muse was booked in the Assumption Parish Detention Center. A deputy observed a vehicle commit a traffic violation near Highway 1 by the Highway 1011 bridge and initiated a stop. So the vehicle did not yield to the attempt. The suspect jumped out of the vehicle while it was still in motion. A foot pursuit ensued. The Muse was eventually arrested. He is charged with resisting arrest with force or violence, resisting an officer, possession of marijuana, and a failure to appear warrant. Multiple traffic violations tacked onto this as well. Let's close out in New Orleans with the loss of a legend. Bourbon Street performer and club owner Chris Owens died yesterday. Owens opened her first club on Bourbon Street back in 1957, rose to fame as a singer, dancer, and entertainer. Owens was planning her annual Easter parade, which she has led since the 1980s. That parade will roll in Owens' honor on Easter Sunday. That is an absolute loss of a legend. Chris Owens has been a staple in the French Quarter and throughout New Orleans for, well over half a century. All right, we got a break for CBS News. Coming right back at it next. Yeah, like I got a report on a death, and I can't make jokes about a threesome. But, and I didn't even know this was a term. I saw the term Devil's Triangle, and I was like, I wonder what that means in the Urban Dictionary. And I looked it up, and sure enough,
it already exists.
2 women, 1 man, by the way, for the Devil's Triangle. Apparently that has to be clarified.
I was going to say how the Lord intended, but that's literally not at all.
No, not even close.
No, not even a little. So I went to a private Christian high school in Texas, and every Wednesday we have athletics at the end of school. Mm-hmm. And every Wednesday we have kind of like a chapel session, like just talking about, someone comes up and speaks, talks about the Lord, what have you. And like we already do like chapel every day, and so like sometimes it's kind of hit or miss. Sometimes it's pretty captivating. Mm-hmm. And this person who came to speak was actually one of our coaches who doesn't often speak, but he was very well liked and respected. And he was talking about this lesson, this life, what have you. And it was actually really good. I really enjoyed it. And then he was saying, like, it all boils down to this one little, like, saying. And it's, like, FTW. And he said, it's for the win. And then all of us looked at each other like, what did he say?
That's what FTW stands for.
I guess our generation called it something different. It was F the world.
Ah, okay.
So all of the wind got sucked out of his message for the students.
In fairness to him, FTW is for the win is not unheard of.
No, it's not. But we knew it as something different, and all of us just kind of collectively laughed.
Okay.
So that's my experience with stuff like that.
Yeah. Hey, Rich.
Every human being, I'm gonna recommend this on Tuesday. We'll graduate from the academy. Yeah. Every Metro Council member should be required to go through the Citizens Academy. What we went through last night, Brian, changed my life forever. They did real life scenarios.
Yeah.
Set you up. It was totally. I was so shaken after the first one. When I waited till last to go. We go through 3 different scenarios. You can't see what's going on. You follow me? Each person is. Dude, when I went through the first one, I was like this, and it was just. I'll tell you what happened. So they set it up. You're outside this door. You hear shit going on. You're walking into an apartment. It's domestic.
Domestic, yeah.
Hey, so check this out. So you got a minute?
Yeah. No, I got
so
3 minutes.
In, right? He's on the couch. It's our office. Role play. He's on the couch drinking. She's over here. I want him. He's yelling, I mean, it's like intense. So, you're trying to make sure nobody comes. You know where I'm going? You're trying to put all of this. So anyway, she's cutting up. Ma'am, you're doing your deal. Sir, stay down. Well, all of a sudden, I'm talking to her. And he starts to get up. I said, sir, put the bottle there. He's like, I got a bottle. So as I'm thinking I got her under control, I'm talking to him. She pops it. I'm dead.
Wow.
Brian, you don't know, man. I'm telling you, every human being needs to go. Let me tell you what, the second one, right? The second one. 2 guys fighting in a warehouse, fighting in this building. You walk in, and here's this guy on the ground. And this guy. Come on. I mean, I'm talking about intense, the son of a.
Right.
Well, guess what? I crashed and burned again because I should have shot him.
Yeah.
But he's
Hey. No. Yeah, no.
It's just phenomenal, man.
And you get the adrenaline pumping and all of it. Oh, dude. What's happening, Daniel? How you doing? I'm good. How are you? Good. Sorry, all good. No, all good. We got one segment before you. Huh. I got you, Miracle Balls. Oh, wow. I just realized YouTube can't hear y'all's into the conversation. Shit. Mine aren't expensive and magically work, too. Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Hour 3 of mornings with Brian Haldane coming your way right now. Forgot my name for a second there. Brian here with you. Jake producing. We got a busy hour coming your way this hour. Daniel Erspamer from the Pelican Institute going to be in studio. He's already in studio for our next segment. Get caught up on the legislative session. There's a lot going on. And we're going to try and squeeze all of it into like 15 and a half to 16 minutes. Yeah, that's going to happen. Also this hour, if I could find my stinking rundown. Here it is. District Attorney Hillar Moore going to be in studio to close us out as well. Looking forward to that. We visit with Hillar Moore once a month, and that would be today. First Wednesday of the month is when Hillar comes in. So we've got a lot to talk about with the District Attorney as well. All that's going to have to wait. We've got This Day in History coming your way in 60 seconds. I got to tell you about the folks over at Complete Collision Center. Check them out online, CompleteCollision.com, CompleteCollision.com. Certified by more than a dozen major car manufacturers. The people that build the cars say, hey, if something goes wrong and it has to get fixed, these are our guys. This is where you want to take it. And if the people that built it say take it there, I'm taking it there. They're on Perkins, just east of Bluebonnet. They're on Plank Road in Zachary. 768-9898 is the phone number. 768-9898. Commit that to memory. Put it in your phone. If you're ever in an accident, you need the number. You need the recall on it. Boom. 768-9898. Complete Collision. Don't let who you choose to repair your vehicle be your second accident. Check out CompleteCollision.com. One more before we dive in to This Day in History. The Dreams Come True Radiothon is going on right now at Talk1073.com. I cannot, it's physically impossible to overemphasize the importance of the Dreams Come True Radiothon. We team up with Becky and her team at Dreams Come True every single year, and we are all in for it, and for good reason. Dreams Come True grants dreams for local children with life-threatening illnesses. Local children with life-threatening illnesses. That your money's not going anywhere else. It's staying right here to help our neighbors, our friends, our loved ones in our own backyard. Takes a couple grand to grant one dream. So every dollar you can donate, any dollar you can donate is so appreciated. Visit talk1073.com, click on the donate button, and get involved. We're all in every year, and we would like you to be as well. And you're going to be hearing about this all month long. And tomorrow we're going to talk with a doctor that is involved with them. And throughout the month, you're going to hear either from Dream Kids or from Becky Prejean herself about the work that they do and the level of importance. If you've listened to any of the Guarantee radio stations for any amount of time, you've heard these stories before. And it's impossible for them not to just grab you by the heart and make sure that you know how important your help is. Dreams Come True Radiothon going on all month long. All right, time for This Day in History. Let's get it.
Yes, sir. It is time for This Day in History. We're kicking things off in 1889. George Eastman begins selling his Kodak flexible rolled film for the first time. Can you imagine how that went?
I mean, I would imagine that went pretty smooth. Like, I would imagine, like, all you have to do is physically show them
just how it works.
Yeah.
And then you change the world.
Yeah.
1906, the world's...
Whoa, 1896.
What happened in 96?
First modern Summer Olympics Games opened in Athens, Greece.
Ooh.
Which is baffling to me that it was only 1896, and more so the fact that they thought April 6th was somehow summer.
Well, I mean, there was a time worldwide travel would take months on end, so you can imagine that'd be a little difficult. 1906, the world's first animated cartoon is released, titled Humorous Phases of Funny Faces by J. Stuart Blackton. In 1925, there's actually a lot of films in this one. 1925, the first film shown on an airplane. It was on British Air. Couldn't tell you the film. It was probably stop motion, black and white, and silent.
Wait, first movie on a plane?
Yes.
What year?
1925.
We were already that bored with Flight that we had to have a movie at this point?
We needed
Like
entertainment.
1925, the fact that you are, extended above the ground should have been enough to keep you going.
These kids and their dang technology.
By the way, that movie was my best friend's wedding.
Really?
No.
1986, a soccer ball was juggled nonstop for 14 hours and 14 minutes.
By who?
I couldn't tell you, but that's insane.
I feel like credit should be given there. We'll just say Diego Maradona and call it.
Well, speaking of Diego Maradona, in 1991, he was suspended for 15 months by Italian league for testing positive for cocaine use. He was wild.
Comment. No comment.
No comment. He was wild. That's
Yeah.
just, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. In 2009, Star Trek, the film reboot directed by J.J. Abrams, starring Chris Pine, Zachary Quinto, premieres in Austin, Texas.
Okay.
Got anything for me?
No.
Then let's get to the birthdays. First up.
Oh, wait. Yeah, no, this isn't a big one, but on this day in 1917,
What
the
happened?
U.S. declared war on Germany in World War I.
How'd that go?
Well, not great because they had a sequel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Germany. There's been 2 world wars, and both of them, Germany decided to take on the world.
How'd that go?
It's just...
Hold the L. Birthdays. Peyton List turns 24. Paul Rudd is 53.
Why do I know Peyton List?
She was in Hey Jesse.
Oh, yeah, the
She's
blonde.
The blonde-haired
Yeah,
girl, yeah. Billy D. Williams, Lando Calrissian himself, turns 85.
Yeah.
Michael Rooker, 67.
Why don't I know him?
Michael Rooker? You don't...
I recognize the name. I just don't know where I know it
Michael
from.
Rooker was in the new Suicide Squad movie. He was in
Major League 2.
Galaxy. He was in
Major League 2.
The Walking Dead.
JFK.
Yeah. Any James Gunn thing ever he's in?
James Gunn from Queer Eye?
From Guardians of the Galaxy and the Suicide Squad. And some other stuff. Spencer Dinwiddie, current Mavericks guard, turns 29. And recent New Orleans Pelicans draft pick Kyra Lewis Jr. turns 21. Fun fact, I'd have to find it on SoundCloud, but I recorded a podcast about a year ago whenever that draft was happening, and I did predict that the Pelicans would take Kyra Lewis with the 14th pick. So shout out to myself. Let's get to the deaths.
Whoa, hang on. Did you mention Paul Rudd?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, Paul Rudd's 53. Did you mention Zach Braff?
Zach Braff. No, I
Zach
did not.
Braff, yeah, he's 47. And did you mention former LSU star, now with the Patriots, cornerback Jalen Mills?
Ooh, that's a solid shot right there.
Yep.
Only one death from me to talk about, Don Rickles. He passed on this day in 2017.
Yeah.
He was very good in Casino. That's what I know him from, at least.
I miss Don Rickles.
Yeah, he's a funny man. Got any deaths for me before
Nope.
we move to the holidays? Because we only got one to talk about, and it is National Student Athlete Day.
It is also New Year's Eve.
New Year's Eve.
New Year's Eve.
What are we celebrating? How are we celebrating tomorrow?
Well, tomorrow on this day in 1933, people lined up at their favorite bar to celebrate the end of Prohibition.
Ah.
So it was New Year's Eve. The next day, bars would be open again. Yeah.
And that was, what, 1917?
33. 1917 was World War I.
Ah, yes. That old chestnut.
2017 was when Tim Tebow made his minor league debut and left the yard in one of his first at-bats.
And how'd that go?
All these things are on par with each other.
Well, that's all I got to say. That is this day in history.
All right, quick break. When we come back, let's get inside the legislative session. Daniel Erspamer from the Pelican Institute joins us next. Come on over, man.
Paul Rudd, who never ages.
No, he doesn't.
Fair.
You know what we should have done? You know how every time Paul Rudd's on with Conan O'Brien, he plays that clip from Mac and Me? Yeah. We should have had that on the... That would have been great. How's it going?
Hi, I'm Suzanne. I'm with Hillar's office.
Hi, Suzanne. I got scared when I saw that email yesterday.
Yes.
It was so out of context. I was just like, strangulation. Am I going to be murdered?
That's the kind of optimism we need today.
Everybody is on the lookout for this ugly-ass dog.
It's adorable, Brian. His name is Goose, and he's precious.
Oh.
It's a really ugly bulldog that got lost in his
Plus his heart.
I know. I know. Next door up. Yeah. Yeah.
That was a perfect
It's
reaction.
so ugly, it's cute.
Some dogs can be so ugly they're cute.
It's true.
Chihuahuas are
Yeah.
But you know that's like the most lovable dog ever. Like that dog, like all about the belly rubs, I'm sure.
I like bulldogs. Sweet dogs.
Yes.
I had two growing up.
Did you?
They are incredibly lazy.
I bet. It's my kind of dog.
If you need some white noise when you're going to sleep, they're snoring.
I'll bet.
That's for sure. It's hilarious.
Troy says, not making my bed at Dixie basketball camp got me a tour. Thanks, Jodine. I need to go back and find out when you had posted that to know what it's in context to. I miss Dixie basketball camp. Define irony. Getting on an airplane and the movie is Airplane. That's funny. Better than airport, though, right? 818 Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. It's time for us to dive into the legislative session. Actually, I got to take just a second before we dive into the legislative session and preview what's to come Friday, the one-day sale out at Mathern's. The one-day sale out at Mathern's. We'll dive into prices on individual items as we get closer to weekend, but every year when they have the one-day sale, or every time they have the one-day sale, I stock up. This go around, if you're getting ready for Easter Sunday, if you're getting ready for a crawfish boil, this is the time to do it. I mean, you're going to find all the trimmings, all the fixins, all the sausage, the boil, the shrimp, the mushrooms, everything that goes along with the crawfish. Stock up for the entire crawfish season over at Mathern's. The one-day sale going on Friday, April 8th at, I believe, both locations of Mathern's. You'll find them downtown on 3rd Street. You'll find them in the Nicholson Gateway Shopping Center. Mathern's one-day sale. Kind of a big deal, and it's coming your way Friday. All right, time to welcome in from the Pelican Institute, Daniel Erspamer. Welcome back, sir. How are you, man?
Hey, other than not having had a crawfish boil yet this season, I'm pretty good. I know, terrible.
Whoa.
Yeah, fix that.
We're late in the season already for the first time out.
Makes me sad.
Yeah. We saw something weird or something unusual, something that doesn't happen very often. In fact, it's been since the 90s. A veto got the override.
Yeah.
And we paused the session to get it done. That's so strange. Like last year, they had a veto override session and did nothing. This year, they stopped the regular session, overrode a veto, and got back into the regular session.
Right on in.
So your thoughts on the override?
Well, obviously it has the potential to change the dynamics of the way the legislature interacts with the governor. Not just this legislator and governor, but, because this is such an unusual event. The question is, will it be a blip? Will it be a one-time thing, or will the legislature continue down its pathway of exerting independence from the executive? We'll see. Certainly, with an election looming in the next year, it has the potential to change the way things work a little bit.
So there are a couple of different bills that are in front of the legislature this year. One in particular, the transgender sports bill, that the governor vetoed last year.
Right.
And now that we've seen an override, what's the likelihood that it doesn't just be a blip on the radar, that we would see the legislature say, no, we approved this before. We're standing by it.
Yeah,
and not that bill in particular.
Right.
Just that's the example I throw out.
Yeah, I think it would not surprise me. There are a few bills. One that we were very supportive of last year, that's coming back this year, that would provide transparency to education spending across the state. After they lost the first override vote, obviously they didn't consider other ones, but passed with broad support in both chambers that the governor vetoed last session. So it does raise at least the specter of that possibility with any bill that gets a lot of support in the legislature.
Transparency with educational spending is one educational bill that's out there. The educational savings accounts continue to move forward and look pretty strong.
They do. I heard, I was listening to you and Ken talk about them this morning on the way in. They'll actually be.
So you're at Ken level with him, not full on Kenny, but
not a
Kenneth?
Kenny.
Okay. I feel comfortable with Ken right now.
He's a great guy and doing amazing work.
That was my first time meeting him. He's a ball of energy.
He is, and has been a leader in education reform for a long time, and a terrific guy. The education savings accounts bills will actually be up in committee today. So today's a good day to watch the education committee. These are really important pieces of legislation that will empower parents. That you and I have talked some about them before. Starting with really targeting some student populations that are in most need of some flexibility and choice.
Military families,
kids
that are victims of
bullying, kids in the foster system, kids who can't read at grade level by third grade. That's one coming from the Senate side that'll come.
Wow! Oh, that's a wrinkle.
Yes,
I like that.
Senator Sharon Hewitt. Her argument is,
how's that working out for you? Is her argument is like you want to keep doing the same thing over and over again, or we want to get this kid some help?
That's right. If you've gotten to the third
Holy
grade,
crap, that's good.
That school's had 4 years to get you to read. If they haven't done it, parents deserve the opportunity to take those dollars to a school that'll better fit them.
Shots fired.
Yeah.
Go get him, Senator Hewitt.
That's right.
Okay. Now, I don't think anybody's trying to be secretive about it, but if this passes in its form, what's going to happen next year is, well, if it's good for this group, it should be good for this group as well. And that's how you broaden it and grow it.
Absolutely. Look, we've made no secret. We believe every kid in Louisiana deserves the opportunity to attend a school that fits him or her, and for the dollars to follow the child to that school. So that there's no secret there.
Yeah.
So we want, but if we're going to start somewhere, we want to start with the kids that are most at risk, who could really most take advantage and use these dollars.
Absolutely. And I don't think there's anybody out there that would gladly wait their turn.
Right.
Say no. Let's get help where help's needed first.
Yep.
What else are y'all looking at?
Occupational licensure is a big issue for this session. So, this has been a topic for a number of years.
Talked with Julie Emerson about this one yesterday.
Yeah, Julie has been a leader on this for a long time. And here's where I think we stand, which is there have been attempts over the years to kind of target one license or another. Those are all good. We supported them. But, if you take a step back, the question is, we need some rules of the game, right? So let's set up the problem. So first of all, what is occupational licensure? So these are rules that boards promulgate, rules that they issue that require someone to get a permit, to get a license from the government, basically a permission slip from the government to do their job. And Louisiana is one of the worst states in the country for this. And at the Pelican Institute, we have found a direct link economically between licensure and economic mobility. So if we care about helping people get out of poverty, if we care about helping people pursue the American dream, these licenses, which are often required in the name of health, safety, and welfare, really are just preventing people from getting work.
Absolutely. And the one that gets pointed to all the time is the florist.
The florist, that's right.
You don't want an unlicensed florist because you might have out-of-season tulips. You don't know.
It's terrifying prospect. Worth noting that 49 other states do not require a license for florists. Louisiana.
Just 49 others.
In the District of Columbia. And presumably Puerto Rico and Guam.
Yeah, I would imagine. It's gotten so ridiculous with the occupational licenses that I think I'm going to change my stance to say we need more of them. No, all of the businesses, all of the possible job titles that have developed over the last half decade.
That's right.
You know what? Are you a licensed social media influencer? I mean, now that we've got NIL deals, we got
well, right?
Livy Dunn needs a license.
Absolutely.
I mean, if you're going to be an influencer on TikTok,
This is
you
highly
darn well
risky
better
activity.
for the sake of the public good. You need that license.
That's right.
What's the possibility of just disbanding boards altogether?
Yeah, look, I think that's absolutely something that needs to be looked at. These boards are staffed by incumbent businesses. So let's take florists, for example.
Yes.
Brian, if you're a budding, pardon the pun,
Oh,
florist, sorry.
Well played. I groan, but I appreciate it.
You would have to go in front of the board, right? And that board is made up of people who are already florists.
Yes.
So what incentive do they have to add a new competitor into
None.
their marketplace? That's right. So these boards act like that. They crush competition. They control supply, which hurts not only the people seeking jobs in those and entrepreneurs who are looking for a way to make ends meet for their families, but it also hurts consumers because we get less competition, fewer options. So we've got to tackle this. And the good news is we've got a bipartisan group of lawmakers who have come together to say we're going to fix this. And this really doesn't break down on partisan lines. Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservatives all can agree these licenses are bad.
Well, because when it comes to small business, you affect every stop along the spectrum of who might be applying for that small business.
No question about it. So what this breaks down to is, are you somehow significantly influenced by the board, or are you a practitioner of that, right? If you're doing one of these professions that requires a license and you're in the legislature. So this one's going to be interesting to watch. This is very clearly status quo, who wants to control things and keep things the way they are versus reform and free enterprise. And again, we've got Democrats carrying these bills, Republicans carrying these bills, conservatives, liberals, Black Caucus members, everybody across the spectrum who have said, yes, we've got to come together and fix this problem.
Black Caucus members are probably the silver bullet with this one because that's where we're going to see growth. That's where we're going to see new business, new entrepreneurship, new generational wealth if done right.
Absolutely. Our research suggests that communities of color are particularly hurt by these licensure requirements, in part because there are a number of these requirements that for often blue-collar jobs or not office jobs, right, that ask for a college degree, where a college degree is absolutely not necessary to do the work. And we just know traditionally communities of color have lower rates of college degrees, and it's harder, as you move from generation to generation to get out of poverty. And that's what we all want. We want everyone to have the opportunity to flourish.
No, absolutely. And when it comes to these boards and when it comes to those who set up the licenses, you're talking about a good old boy network that they're not going to have access to, and it's downright not fair when it's all said and done. And that's stymieing business within Louisiana. Hey, we got about 2.5 minutes left. I appreciate you popping in today. Centralized sales tax collection is back up again.
Back up.
I kind of feel like this is being slow played on the public level because it's not the legislature that's the issue. It's getting it back in front of the polls again.
Yeah. So obviously, Amendment 1 was not passed by voters last year. This would have streamlined the collection of sales tax. Another example, it's kind of a stop me if you've heard this one. Louisiana's an outlier in how we do this. Terribly
this time I think it's only 48 states.
That's right. I think there is one other who does it this way. But, so this is just crazy. And lots of politics at play here. People, again, talk about that good old boy network.
Yeah.
The tax collectors at the local level are making money off the tax collection.
Exactly.
And I get it. That's the way it's set up. They're not doing anything wrong, but it makes it very difficult to get to reform. We have actually, the Pelican Institute filed a lawsuit on behalf of a company trying to do business in Louisiana. So if they don't pass this or
this
voters
is
don't
that jeweler
approve
out of Arizona that I had on the show?
That's right.
Okay,
Yep.
I apologize. I forget his name. But go back to the archives of the show. I was on location for the Pelican Institute's Solutions Summit, and it was a fascinating conversation about how if you are a small business person, you basically have to learn how to do business 64 different ways.
That's right. Halstead Bead is the name of the company, and it's a huge problem facing particularly small business and people who are trying to provide options here to Louisianans.
60 seconds left. What's on tap for you today?
Today, I am going to be working on the education bills that are in committee. We're going to talk to the governor's office about some of these issues that we're working on, and we'll be working with legislators to get these licensure bills over the finish line, answer concerns.
How many more times can I have you back on before the session's over?
I'd love to come on regularly.
Okay.
Have me whenever you want.
Absolutely. We'll set that up after the show this morning. He is Daniel Erspamer from the Pelican Institute. I always appreciate the time, and yeah, there's going to be a lot of moving parts, moving very fast, very quickly over the next 2 months ish before they sign a die and have to go home for the summer. Appreciate it.
Always.
Thank you for stopping by. We got to check news here. We're going to check CBS News, local news, traffic. I'll reset the weather, and then District Attorney Hillar Moore is up next right here on Talk 107.3 FM, the new flavor of talk in Baton Rouge. I'm out about 4 seconds early. Not bad.
Oh, awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't want to do it too often, but
yeah,
no, because there's going to be a lot of updates. And
yeah,
the centralized sales tax thing is right now is not the battle, but hey, kill the mics for a sec. What's happening?
You got it. How you doing today?
Doing all right. Come on in. Y'all are up next.
All right, Suzanne, come on in. Suzanne Hamilton.
Suzanne Hamilton. So, did I not see the talking points in the email, or do y'all just have them
No,
here?
we
just making sure.
yes.
Ah. What is your title, Suzanne?
She took Renee Kraft's position. She's the interim director of the Family Justice Center.
Okay. Oh, Renee!
Renee is
okay,
moving. Yeah.
She's moving. Yeah.
He
Taking one of my
he
players.
coached her daughter.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she has been such a joy to watch. She's okay. That's basketball. And I'm not embarrassed to say that. But her level of commitment and growth, and like she's just Lindy is just all in.
Yeah.
Like wants to be better. She
Love that.
listens like you wouldn't believe, and she's a joy to coach.
So Brian, so we could maybe start off with just introducing her as the interim director. What does the Family Justice Center do? I know we've talked about it before, but the main thing for this is we just had we just went through 2 days of strategic planning for the Family Justice Center. She could maybe talk about what the future looks like for Baton Rouge and surrounding areas. The most important thing I think is after the 2 days of planning, we had a 1 full day of strangulation training. It was a full day, and it was a lot of people online throughout the United States, in person, Canada, and the training was phenomenal. A lot of really good information about strangulation and how it relates to other things. So she can really talk a lot about strangulation, how important it is.
It's not something we hear about.
No. And so
I'm going to be in the weeds for sure.
So we can maybe interject things in every now and then.
Yeah.
And then the need for future training for forensic on strangulation of women. That's overlooked so much, training EMS folks, police officers. I mean, she can take it
We
in.
do it with sexual assault. You know, we have SANE nurses.
SANE nurses, but
what's happening more is the domestic violence strangulation. And we're not doing that at all.
Really?
yeah, because
Forensic.
you really can't see anything right when the police are called because you don't see the bruising. She may say, you may not even see any things on her neck. You said, oh, bullshit.
New Orleans, they're moving towards the forensic interviews of the strangulation, and they put a scope down there, and they can see, and so it increases prosecution, and the numbers are staggering.
It's really inconsistent when it's the team guys. Can I get a mic check on each?
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. Interim director for the Family Justice Center. We'll kind of rehash a little bit about what y'all do overall before we dive into the training. .837 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Once a month, we welcome in our district attorney. We welcome in the district attorney whenever he wants to come by, but we have it on the schedule once a month to welcome in District Attorney Hillar Moore. Hillar, how are you, man?
Good, man. How you been?
I've been really, really good. You brought a guest today?
Sure did. Miss Suzanne Hamilton. She's our interim director of the Family Justice Center. When she's not wearing that hat, she is a victims assistance counselor at our office. She's one of the best in the nation, and she deals mainly with domestic violence. That's been her history. She's a extremely talented lady, very well educated, hard worker, and we had a need to fill the interim director spot, and she agreed to take that, and she's been there now for 2 months as the interim director, and really has done a phenomenal job.
Suzanne, welcome aboard. How you liking the gig?
We have a lot of work ahead of us, but I'm excited for the vision.
Just kind of a refresher. What is the Family Justice Center, and what do y'all do?
So the Family Justice Center, we service East Baton Rouge Parish and the 6 surrounding parishes. And what we are is a one-stop shop for anything at the intersection of domestic violence. So as much as we can break down barriers for a victim leaving a domestic or dating violence situation and making it easier for them to navigate exiting the relationship or making themselves safer within the relationship, we do that. So you can walk into the Family Justice Center, you can file a police report, you can get counseling. We have support groups, civil legal assistance, so child custody and divorces. And so we find that when you have resources that are co-located in one convenient location, that it makes it easier for a victim to live an abuse-free life.
What are some of y'all's biggest challenges?
So we are pretty new to the area. We're trying to let ourselves know that we're here to service our community. And so if we could get the resources that we offer, if we could get that out there and fight this domestic violence problem that we have in our community, then that's what we're aiming for.
You mentioned getting out of abusive relationships or making the relationship either less abusive or non-abusive. That sounds like a struggle to walk away from a scene and it just not be completely cynical about it. How do y'all make that determination as to what you're going to be attempting to do? Is it based solely off the victim's wants?
Yeah, so we work individually with each victim. We have to meet a person where they are. And so If that means they are going to stay in the relationship for the sake of their children, for example, then we look at that situation and we'll safety plan. How can we make you as safe as possible in the relationship? You're not ready to leave yet. Exiting a domestic violence relationship is the most dangerous time in that relationship. And so we work within those bounds. And then, of course, if somebody does want to leave a relationship, we work to navigate that as well. Relocation and counseling for the trauma they've experienced.
You're coming in at a time where we're coming out of the pandemic. Pandemic exacerbated everything, especially when it comes to domestic violence. Are you finding it, this is going to be the wrong phrasing, but is it about to get easier?
No, I think that we have found that we were shut down and it was in the homes. It was private for so long, and now with everything opening back up, we're finding increased reporting, actually.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's shedding the light on it. It is at least a step in the right direction, though not fully the right direction. We're going to talk about some training that y'all just handled, and it's something that does not come across the headlines very often. The Training Institute on Strangulation Prevention, and y'all just held a training. Bring me up to speed. What went down?
Yes, so the East Baton Rouge District Attorney's Office and the Capital Area Family Justice Center, we co-hosted the Training Institute on Strangulation Prevention, and we held a training last Friday with law enforcement, our medical professionals here in Baton Rouge, and any other frontline agencies, social service agencies. And so when we think of domestic violence, we think of bruising, cuts, maybe even broken bones, but a form of domestic violence that we don't talk about enough is strangulation. And the stats are staggering for strangulation. So men who put their hands around a woman's neck, they're 700 times more likely to commit an attempted murder within the next year. And if a man just once puts their hands around a woman's neck, they're 800 times more likely to commit a homicide within that next year.
And can I add that the thing that I learned about the training is when you're talking about strangulation and they're 800 times more likely to kill within the next year, the killing is not by strangulation, it's with a gun. And so that leads to other issues, which was something that I learned, that that's how the death will occur, is generally with a weapon and not actually by strangulation.
How do we come about to these numbers? How do we get these numbers? Because that sounds like fantastic input.
So this institute, they've been doing this for a long time now, and the two people who began it, Gail Strack and Casey Gwynn, have accumulated lots of numbers and stats and studies from United States and across the world, and they are really on the forefront of this. And I'm telling you, we learned so much at that training. I also want to compliment, we had two judges that were able to come for a whole day. It is tough getting away for a whole day.
Yeah.
But we really need to get a lot more training. We had medical health professionals, nurses, different hospitals, providers, over 200 people, 100 from around the country online and a few from Canada. So we had 100 in person here. So it's really turned out real well. But some of the things they talked about in strangulation was things that we've been in this business for a long time, never heard of, didn't think about, but we really lack a lot here that we need to get on.
Well, from this end, the headline is going to be about the homicide. It's not going to be about what happened months ahead of the homicide that led up to it, which sounds very proactive, if nothing else. The training itself, who was it intended for?
The training was intended for anybody who is coming in contact with domestic violence victims. So that is a ton of people. You have medical, you have police, you have prosecutors who, the case ends up on their desk. You have social service agencies. So we had Louisiana Department of Health. We had the Attorney General's office there who involved more in policy. So anybody who has an interest in domestic violence, that they were there.
Domestic violence or strangulation prevention is part of this. How do you take those who are responding and make it from a preventative standpoint?
So I think that when you see strangulation in a relationship, it's a predictor for the stats that we just mentioned.
Right.
And so we can better service that victim. We can do a comprehensive safety plan at our Family Justice Center, and we can help that victim navigate throughout that. education is a huge part too.
Mm-hmm.
So educating most people don't know, even if it's happening to them, that this is in the domestic violence world the last step before death.
How tough is it to get that message across? Because I could see in a number of domestic violence cases where everything's just rationalized within. How do you get that message across that this is a key fact? You need to pay attention because this happened. This will happen.
Right. I mean, just that education, explaining, look, this is where this can lead, and we're here to help you. That's what we have to offer.
And this training that we did was only one day. This is a normal 4-day training session condensed into one, so we really had to pack it in there. Our hope is to get these people back for 4 days and expand the number of people that come. Suzanne, if you don't mind, could you talk a little bit about when the police come in contact with a victim who says, I was strangled, or he put his hands around my neck? What do we have in Baton Rouge to offer as an evaluation of strangulation now, and where do we want to go?
Yep. So right now, we are striving to ask those appropriate questions when the professional comes into contact with a domestic violence victim who's been strangled. Over half of those victims show no signs of visible on the exterior.
Okay.
Their interior, or their experience through memory loss, loss of hearing, there's the inability to swallow, things like that. So asking those more probing questions, and we need to educate our professionals in order to have that knowledge to ask those questions.
Is it as simple as making it like standard operating procedure to do further examinations? I mean, it would start with the questions, but I would assume it would lead to something beyond the questions within an exam.
Right, yes. So that's the direction that we're heading towards, is to doing performing forensic exams for strangulation victims within Baton Rouge and the surrounding area. So they're actually doing that in New Orleans, and that's one of our goals here. So we're currently performing forensic examinations for sexual assault victims, and that's been a norm for quite a while, say nurses. And so moving in the direction of having forensic exams for that strangulation will increase the prosecution for these offenders, and it'll shine light on this issue.
But you also, Brian, just like she mentioned the sane nurses for sexual assault, that victim has to want to be examined. You can't force someone, obviously, to report a sex offense, and you can't force a domestic violence as well, but they do call, and we can't force them to an examination. And if you look at some of the materials we gave you, they also like to do brain scans and scans of your arteries in your neck to see whether you were strangled, and look at the bruising behind your head. That's oftentimes takes more than 1 day to develop. So we would want to ask these people, can you come back for another invasive brain scan or whatever? It's tough to do, and tough for a lot of these ladies to come forward and do it and cooperate.
We're going to continue with this after Your Money Now. We've got about a minute and a half until Your Money Now. If I could, kind of as an aside for the listening audience, obviously not first responders, obviously, but if someone is in contact with somebody who is a domestic violence victim, should there be things that just lay people can be on the lookout for, or questions we should be probing, questions we should be asking someone who's like, oh, this happened? Should we be asking certain questions to lead them down that path?
Right, yes. So with domestic violence being so prevalent, chances are we have family members and friends who are experiencing this. So being aware, being in touch with your circle, and getting them the proper help with trained professionals. We have professionals at the Family Justice Center who can properly assist, and all of our services are free and confidential. So getting them and supporting them in that journey to getting professional help.
We're going to continue after Your Money Now. We'll take a quick break. Your Money Now, traffic. We'll come back and talk about things from a prosecutorial end and from a what's still needed end. If you're watching us on YouTube Live, stick around because we're not going anywhere. The conversation will continue on YouTube. Hey, before we get you to Your Money Now, got to remind you one more time about the Dreams Come True Radiothon that is going on right now. We go all in with Dreams Come True every single year, and for good reason. They're granting dreams to local children with life-threatening illnesses. Visit talk1073.com for more. Here's your money now. All right, so we're in break right now. What kind of numbers are we talking about here when it comes to strength? Like how many incidents of domestic violence do we see this connected with it, or do we see that like, okay, a domestic violence incident happened, strangulation was part of it? Percentage-wise, what are we looking at?
So we recently started doing lethality assessments within the district attorney's office, and that's one of the things that we're looking at is strangulation. And the numbers, we don't have solid numbers. We're looking at 1 year, but it's over 75%.
So that's historical interview. It's not only just that latest incident that brought the lady to the office. It's in your history as he put his hands around your neck.
Yeah.
Which is a big indicator.
So when it comes to the exams, I mean, there's, like you said, you have to volunteer for it basically, but what would be the holdups or the hindrances from not wanting to take one? Is it just somebody who doesn't want their significant other prosecuted, or is there something?
I mean, just think about it. It's time. You have to go to a hospital. You have to be evaluated by a doctor, by a nurse. You have to answer questions. What do you do with your children? You still probably love the guy that you're in the relationship with. How is this going to look for him? You have to come back maybe multiple days for different testing, different interviews and evaluations. You have to talk to doctors. It's a chore. It's something you really have to want to do.
Sure.
So it's really difficult. I can't imagine being in that position.
The New Orleans Family Justice Center actually put a health clinic within their Family Justice Center where they have child care, and that's where they do their forensic exams.
How far away are we from that? Yeah. Okay. Well, and that's why. When we come back, I want to talk about like if these exams are done and you can show strangulation. What does that do from your end in the courtroom, from a prosecutorial standpoint? But then I do want to wrap up with where we're not where we want to be. Where do we want to be?
I mean, right now we're in the awareness and education phase.
Yeah.
But
the New Orleans Family Justice Center's been there for 15 years, so we're working on 2, and then you throw COVID in there.
Yeah, COVID kind of screwed everything up.
Yeah.
So, what am I missing that I haven't touched on that y'all want to make sure we touch on?
I think continued funding is always going to be an issue.
We good for 9:30?
Let's go, man. What you up to?
I don't know who approved this spot. Oh my God.
Hillar, tell Judy Carrie get clean up.
I will, Gary. Take care, man.
Education awareness, increased buy-in. Is that?
The thing is, it hit me when these guys first showed up, the people who did the training. They said, you need to make this place as expensive looking as it can be. You have to have greeters outside in the parking lot. Because these people do not want to come in. They want to be welcomed
with love, yes.
And they want to be able to say, this whole place with all of these fancy things, it's yours.
Yeah.
And we...
Well, there's
takes a lot of money.
That comes along with that.
Yeah.
But also, you talk about the not wanting the abusive partner to get in trouble. Is awareness and education a double-edged sword? Like, is that and I'm sure there's a certain amount of people who want the ignorance to not, like, I don't want to face the fact that strangulation is just one step away from death.
Yeah.
Like, so that's part of it. But also, if it helps his job to put bad guys away when you have evidence of this behind it, does that also go into the victim's mind of, oh, if I let them know about strangulation, he's that much more likely to go to jail? Like, to me, that sounds like it would be a double-edged sword that you'd have to fight against.
Right, yeah. And so the direction that we've moved in and we've been doing for a few years now is parallel services. So as part of the Stop the Loss program, the offender, there's protocol for how to address them, and then there's equal protocol for the victim.
So we know they're going back.
Yeah.
You know, we talked to a long time ago, levels A through D. Level A, we don't play with. We don't care about services. You're going to jail. We're going to prosecute you. B, C, and D, we know they're going back. We need to get that offender services because we know he's going back. Can we get both of them services?
Yeah. And what's the level of effectiveness of those services from the?
Fairly new at it now, but if you go through that 16-week domestic violence program, it's pretty effective.
Good.
But you have to have that guy in the right spot to where you can force him to go.
Yeah.
And when the woman's saying, I want to drop charges, I'm not testifying, it's, now what do you have on me? Got nothing.
Right. And
So
you're right
that's-
back to where you were. And
Yes.
That's when the cynicism
Yeah.
kicks in.
Yep.
Yeah. (856) Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Just a couple minutes to go before we get you out of here. We're joined every month by our district attorney Hillar Moore, and we're talking strangulation with the
Suzanne Hamilton.
the Family Justice Center.
Yes.
With Susanna from the Family Justice Center. Hillar, I want to focus in here from a prosecutorial standpoint. How much of her work helps you at your job?
All of it. It's just the work that they do there and with the other victims assistance counsels are phenomenal. These girls are highly motivated, and they do a very good job. They open their arms out to these people. They give them hope. And that's the main thing, is instilling hope to these young ladies.
But from a prosecuting standpoint, though, like, is all this information? Can you use that in a courtroom to, if it comes to that?
Yes, and right now, we're lacking the strangulation protocol, so we don't have that.
Right.
It has to be basically whatever we're able to see, and which is the victim's willing to give us. If we ever move to the forensic stage, then we're going to be in a lot better position, have a much better case. That's where we're working to now.
Suzanne, before we get you out of here, what do y'all need right now?
We need an informed community about strangulation, and that's not just those that are directly affected by domestic violence. That's professionals. That's every single person in this community, because anybody can find themselves being a victim or the mom, sister, brother of a victim. So creating an informed community, educating about the seriousness of domestic violence and also strangulation, and then moving in the direction and developing out our systems that we currently have in place. So the strangulation protocol, like Hillar just mentioned, our Family Justice Center, we're still building that, and we're open and we're ready to greet people, but there's always development there. We're moving towards more holistic services and therapeutic services, so art therapy, dance therapy, not just focusing on the heavy stuff like the police reports and the counseling can even be heavy. So creating an environment that's welcoming and open to where it's not scary to receive services.
How can folks help?
Yeah, so being accepting of domestic violence, this isn't just a private issue. It's very, very normalized, and it's important for, again, us to be educated and being able to meet victims, whether that be family members or as professionals, meeting victims in that way, being able to properly serve them.
We got to get out of here. We're just about done on the air. But closing thoughts. Anything we've missed that you wanted to make sure you get out there?
Just we need steady funding for the Family Justice Center. We receive money from Justice Reinvestment Funds, and hopefully those funds will remain. But we still have to always fight for grants because that money just barely gets us through. So anybody that has any ideas or want to have some funding opportunity, we're always welcome for that. This is something that's really needed.
He is District Attorney Hillar Moore and Suzanne Hamilton from the Family Justice Center. I can't thank y'all enough for the time today. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Brian.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Fox News Rundown's coming your way next, followed by the Brian Kilmeade Show. Then, of course, Dave Ramsey and Jada Cody will drive you home this afternoon. All right, you two.
All right, Brian,
We're getting out of
thanks.
here. Appreciate you. We'll see you tomorrow.